Were you even listening? No. I waited for your go ahead, but you were still on to everything and nothing. Oh, your head stuck in another land, making all these other plans. I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying to break you out of your own mind. I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying. Let's go back to being 17 before we lost it. I know you've been wondering, is this what I really wanted? I didn't think so. No, I didn't think so. Come a little closer, no. I'm trying to get through to you, break and make you follow everything you wanted. Go, just see how far you really come. Wake up, baby, feel the sun. I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying to break you out of your own mind. I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying. Let's go back to being 17 before we lost it. I know you've been wondering, is this what I really wanted? I didn't think so. No, 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 I didn't think so.
Good afternoon. So, just last minute, I tweeted out a bunch of news. There really wasn't much. Again, on my phone, I get breaking news from Sputnik and RT. And anymore, it's slim pickings. I don't see a whole lot. And I have my suspicions if that's something to do with all the craziness that's been against Sputnik and RT here in the United States. So right before the show, I went to their websites and actually tweeted out stuff. And to me, some of the stuff that was on their homepages, to me, was extremely, extremely important information. So we'll be covering that. My rant today is probably, we're going to see how it goes, but it's probably going to be about voting. Okay, because I've had this rant many, many, many times, but it needs to go into a monologue. And then at some point, not today, but at some point, I need to do the monologue that I did yesterday over again, talking about prepping. In fact, I might just make that a separate video without it being a monologue, because I think it's essentially important that priority list gets out there. And it would probably been too hard to kind of hack it up and piece it together, because I you know, just the way I'd done it, I'd went back and I'd listened to it, and I just didn't see how I could effectively, without it sounding funny, how I could just take sections out. So However, when I said that, probably going to be about voting, it's because there's a few different things I'm going to be showing you, including some video content after I cover the news, and they're all parts of the reason why I have the attitude of why a vote just doesn't work, doesn't matter, doesn't work. It's at this point it's foolish. It is. I'm not discouraging anybody from voting. By all means, if you want to vote, go vote. But certainly don't tell people if they don't vote, they don't have a right to bitch. That is lunacy. That is lunacy. Like, okay, do you want to vote for the pedophile, or do you want to vote for the mass murderer, or do you want to vote? Really? I've got to pick one. That's lunacy. That is absolute lunacy. So, and I'm not naming anybody. I'm not saying Trump was this, or Hillary was this, or Bernie was this, or I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that is essentially what you're asking. You're saying, well, this guy or girl, doesn't support this or that. Exactly, Aaron. Aaron said, you don't want to choose the lesser of two evils. Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. I'm not going to choose the lesser of two evils. I don't have to. And luckily, we live in a country, at least at this point, that we don't have to. At this point. I suspect it's coming. Folks, I suspect it's coming, that it's going to be mandatory to vote in this country. And I don't think it's too far off. If we make it that far, I don't think it's too far off. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. But there's some things that I want to show you, and it proves without a doubt, and I'm going to explain why voting just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Even if the person that was truly voted for gets in office and that person is truly a good person, it still doesn't matter. Still doesn't matter. And I'm going to show you why. It's pretty simple. It really, really is. So let me run over the financial stuff and then get to the news. I've actually got some odd news, but it's odd in a good way. So I'm still trying to process it. It really is. Oh, website news. I've got the menus working that I've been fighting so desperately to get working. I've been trying to install another extension to use with it because I wanted a sticky menu. What a sticky menu is when you scroll down the page, the menu would stay at the top of the screen. It wouldn't disappear off the screen with the rest of the website as you scroll down. Apparently, because many of these menu extensions I'm trying to use, offer a paid version in which that option allows you, if you have the paid version, you have that option already built in. You just turn the sticky on and it stays there like it's supposed to. So this free sticky extension that I installed, along with these menu extensions, will cause the menu extension not to work. It's the way that the people coded it, so to get you to, or at least encourage you to buy their menu. And I'm not going to spend $29 or 29 euros. I don't know what that would be in US for a menu. I think that's insane. So anyway, I got that working. So I'm starting to get coming along, and as I've told you, I will get to certain points and I will wipe everything out and restart it. And that's what I'm to next, is to wipe out everything I've got so far, rebuild the site, and I think I'm good. I think I can build from there, and I think I'll be okay. I've got some really cool extensions to make things look a lot nicer and flow a lot smoother, and I think I'm well on the way as far as being able to start building now. And we're going to have a discussion coming up here soon as to what people would like to see on the website. In fact, it's probably going to be an entire monologue. I'll announce it a day ahead of time, and that's what the monologue will be. It will be a discussion about what people would like to see on the website, and I'm going to start gathering that information because you know, now I can pretty much put on there anything I want to. I don't have a hosting company to say, well, you can't run this type of thing or that type of thing. The old chat script that I was using when we were running a dedicated server, that will be going back on the website. So the website will have a pretty incredible chat network right on it. So, which will allow audio chat, video chat, text chat, sending of files, pictures, whatever. So, pretty cool stuff. I won't be putting the like the wall thing like I've got on the current site now. I won't be putting that on there because it's not used. So I can't see the purpose in using database space and all that. Not that I'm worried about the space, but I just don't see the purpose in putting that on there if it's not being utilized. So it is what it is. So let's see. Let me go ahead and run through the financial stuff. Then we'll get to the stuff I've tweeted out. Again, I've got some pretty insane. I think it's pretty insane news. I think it's pretty awesome news, but it's definitely for me shocking. So let's see here. YouTube. We're down to $2.89. If they keep it up, like by the end of the month, we're gonna owe them money, right? Wow, it's insane. Okay, Steam It, pretty much the same as it was. I just actually redeemed some. So the Steam dollars is up to 11.329. I seen before it flashed. I don't know why it flashed, but okay, whatever. Yeah, it flashed. I don't know what happened. But anyway, it's trying to log me back in now. I wonder what's up with that. But anyway, it's the same as it ever was. No. Anyway. Google AdSense. Somebody's been clicking away. We're up to $1.33 today. So that's awesome. That brings us up to $5.42 for the month so far. And our balance, of course, is still the same. The money here from the estimated earnings will not transfer over until the beginning of next month. And the YouTube will be sometime between now and the 15th. We'll come over here. And I think it's going to be like around 17 something or whatever. And our goal is 100. That's when they'll let us cash out. So okay, let me go ahead and run through this, and we'll get started with the actual monologue part of things. I left my glasses over on the other table. Of course, the ones that I've got here are like so dusted up, but that's okay. I'll read through the dust. Okay, Russia should be in the G7 meeting, says Trump. Get this, and we covered this on the show. New Jersey police won't face criminal charges for punching beachgoer in the head. I played this video on here, and it was pretty clear. It was pretty clear there was a huge overreaction that went on. And, yeah, same as it ever was. Here we go. This is the headline that, to me, it just caught me off guard. And I thought, man, that is incredible. I'm not a huge fan of any big corporation. But for a big corporation to step up and do this, wow, that's incredible. Kraft Heinz paying kids slapped with lemonade stand fines. Is that incredible or what? That is like, wow. But we have to fix this problem. That's just a Band-Aid. That's just a Band-Aid. We've got to fix this problem because our children should be able to have a lemonade stand in the yard. I mean, come on. It's mind-blowing. Had to have a sip of coffee. Cause of death of hacker who turned in Chelsea Manning remains a mystery, says the autopsy report. Gotta love that. And of course, Anthony Bourdain, came up suicided today. Very interesting stuff, considering that I think it's his girlfriend or his wife spoke out against Harvey Weinstein, and I think there were some other ties to the Clintons. So there you go. It's a bad week for suicidedness, because I'm telling you, I know somebody was saying 4 this week so far. 4. This Kate, Anthony, and there was a couple other I've seen them talking about that all seem to have kind of ties. It's insane. Now, this is the first time the G7 is so controversial and opposed to the U.S. Get this, right? No poverty there. Brazilian senator shares emotions after visit to North Korea. Now, what have I been saying? And I'm not saying necessarily I trust, the Brazilian senator. I'm not saying I do trust him. I'm not saying I don't trust him. But what I have been saying for quite some time is we can't believe what we're told about how the people there in North Korea are living like animals because Kim Jong-un and his father, and, they wouldn't take care of the people. We don't know that. That's all what we're told. We don't know that. Gaddafi was, from my understanding, taking really good care of the citizens of Libya before he was dragged into the streets and killed. So, the fact of the matter is we just don't know. All we know is the propaganda that's fed to us. So, I found that kind of an interesting report. Black woman trying to return bra to store is handcuffed and accused of shoplifting. Now, this is the second story like this that I've ran across today. The first story that I ran across today was a black man, and he was trying to return some stuff, and pretty much the same kind of reaction. They acted like he stole it, and they claimed that they thought that he was a known criminal, and somebody that was writing, I think, bad checks for stuff and then bringing the stuff back to return it. Turned out, of course, it wasn't him, but still, I mean, it's insane. It's insane. All U.S. B-1B bombers grounded after mechanical failure causes emergency landing. Thank God we got other bombers. Let's see. 1 U.S. soldier killed, 4 injured in attack in Somalia. Chinese hackers swipe naval warfare secrets from U.S. Kremlin on Trump's call for Russia's G8 return. We are focused on other formats. So I thought that was interesting, Trump said something about Russia not being at G7, and it looks like they're trying to work it for Russia to be at G8. That make any difference? Am I impressed? No. No. Just more politics, just more games. That's all it is. Mysterious new spy radar appears in Cuba. And I was reading into this, and they suspect that it's probably China, because somebody's got to pay for it, right? So they suspect that China is the one that funded this radar setup. So I find that very interesting, and Marco Rubio had spoke out and said that it would be a good idea for Cuba to remove it to help improve relations. And when I see things like that, and I often see things like that, I keep thinking, okay, so it's all right for us to do anything we want anywhere around the world, right? We've got so many military bases around the world. We've got so much equipment around the world. We got THAAD systems everywhere, right? But boy, nobody else is supposed to get anywhere near us. It just seems like an incredible double standard, and I think it's starting to backfire, and that's what the other article that I tweeted out earlier on more or less is pointing out. This is the first time G7 is so controversial opposed to U.S. because people are getting tired of it. People are getting tired of U.S. being the world bully. So, kind of is what it is. Let me take a peek over because I do believe a lot of what I was going to be speaking of has to do with information that I actually shared. There's a video that I'm going to play, and it seemed like there was, there's a video I'm going to play, and it's insane. And this is, this is one of the articles. Smitty shared an article with me earlier. Let me go ahead and, basically it says, while Flint continues to struggle, Michigan is allowing Nestle to pump and sell millions of gallons of water for next to nothing. And we all know about this. And they're having similar issues in California with, water, like shortages and whatnot. But Nestle and other companies are allowed to use as much as they want. And in fact, in California right now, it's now illegal to do your laundry and take a shower in the same day. So, but these water bottle companies, Nestle and other companies are allowed to have as much water as they want. They're not restricted. They're not regulated. They're not nothing. They're just go right on ahead. You're fine. It's insane. It is absolutely insane. And folks, the only way we're going to fix this is to get the corrupt politicians out of office, because we've got to get the corrupt politicians out of office in order to get the corrupt businesses out of the country, or at least knock them down a few notches so they can't have as much of an effect as what they are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and figure out how to collapse this. I know there's a way to do it. Ah, that hit it. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a video. And I don't know all the circumstances for this or anything like that. I'm going to try to pause it. Hang on. Facebook has just been so slow and laggy. It is incredible. Okay, so I don't know a whole lot about this. I really don't know a whole lot about this. I did do a little digging to try and find out more information, and I don't have it. All I do know is in the video, it's somebody had said, and it might have been the gentleman holding the camera, I don't know, but somebody had said that the reason why law enforcement was there to begin with was because he was called. Oh, wow. That's Angry American commenting on his own post, or on a post in his Facebook page. But anyway, they had said that she had called the police for help. I don't know what kind of help. I don't know. I really don't know anything other than what you're going to see here. I haven't been able to find any other information out on it. But it's insane. What you're going to see is insane enough.
Aside from resisting, what's she being arrested for before that? What was she resisting?
Refusing to move from the front of my police car. And they wouldn't fucking help me. And
okay. Well, to be honest, man, I'm not sure whether that constitutes her being arrestable.
It doesn't matter right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, what matters is, man, like, dude, stop, listen to me.
Right now, I need to focus on what I'm doing. Get the fuck off of me. Why are you taking my pants off with fucking your hands off? Because you are not fucking bitch. Get the fuck off of me. What are you doing? I called for your help. You're fucking psychotic.
You should never have called for their help. That was a big problem.
You guys are crazy. I didn't fucking hit you. No, sir.
Dude, you gonna threaten that? She's like a 10-year-old girl, man. She's gonna hit you. You're like a 300-pound dude. This is insanity, man. We're gonna have to call an ambulance.
wasn't fucking hitting you. Where's your fucking camera?
There we go. Third guy coming up. There we go. Fourth guy coming up. There's another one.
I'm calm. They wouldn't fucking help me. And they were... I didn't do anything. They attacked me. They attacked me. This is not fair. No. No. You don't have a choice. I didn't do anything. Sir, I didn't do anything. Get the fuck off of me. I didn't do anything. No. Get off of me. I didn't do anything. Get the fuck off me. No. Get the fuck off of me. Get the fuck off of me. Get off of me. No, get off of me. Why are you arresting me? Because I called for your help? Because this is how you make money. Get the fuck off of me.
Put your hand
Get off of me. Why is it okay for you to treat me this way? You are hurting me, sir.
Please, you stop resisting.
No.
Oh, that's great. That's great. You got 4 of your you got to crush her, man.
Get
You got a 300-pound dude sitting on her. This is so crazy, man.
We're gonna let up pressure.
Can't believe this, man. These fucking pieces of shit right here, man. Crazy as fuck, dude. Oh, dude.
Hi.
Hi.
Where'd you come from?
I live right here, bro. I heard her screaming help. She was screaming help. I thought maybe she was getting raped, bro. Came out here to find out 4 fat officers are sitting on her. Okay, doping. Nah, man. Doping. Yeah, man. Back up. Back up. Back up. I know, man. I can't.
Scoot back, though, okay?
Scoot back how? I'm fine. I've been here since before you.
I got you. I got you.
Good.
I'm just asking you to scoot back, okay?
I'm good. Don't touch me.
Just
Don't
scoot back
touch
to
me.
the telephone
Let
pole.
go of me. Let go of me, officer. Let go of me.
I need you to
Officer,
I need you to
let
scoot
go
back.
of me. Officer,
okay?
let go of me.
We're dealing with this.
Okay, okay. I see that. Officer, let go of me right now. Let go of me right now because I've been here.
Okay.
Okay, there's no reason for you. You're going to push me back.
I am going to.
Okay. How far are you going to put me back?
I just want you right there by the
You're
telephone.
going to put me in handcuffs for resisting arrest?
Because you're interfering.
I'm not interfering. I'm not too close.
I need to uncomfortable.
Making
you
you
can
feel
record
uncomfortable.
fine right there.
If you have 4 other officers
scoot
here,
back.
you're feeling uncomfortable,
I just
bro?
want you to.
And the video shuts off right there. So I wanted to play that because I think it is a direct reflection of what I'm going to be talking about. Because this issue is not changing. It's ongoing. And it's ever worsening. And the only way that it's going to change is us to dissolve this police state. Now, that's not going to happen until we dissolve, in cases like this, our city governments. Now, I don't mean overthrow, overtake. I'm not saying that. I will say dismiss. I will say dismiss. But not overtake. You know, I think we have a fine system set up in this country. Of course, it needs to be made a little more retro to be back to the way that it used to be. But I think our structure, I think the core of this country is fine. I think its intent is very good. The problem is, and this goes hand in hand with why it's not going to make a bit of difference when you vote. It's because there's so much corruption. And I was thinking about this today, and I was going to do up some graphics and stuff like that, and I didn't have a chance to do it. But I can kind of give you a visual. It's pretty simple. Imagine 1,000 dots, right? And they're all red. Okay, now red is going to equal bad here. So imagine 1,000 dots, and they're all red, meaning bad. And you color one dot out of those 1,000 green, which is good. So you have to expect at that point that one green dot is going to be able to make a difference against the 999 red dots. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm not saying there aren't good people that run for office. I'm not saying that there aren't good people in office. I personally think Ron Paul was an incredible, amazing human being and government official. I think he was a wonderful public servant. I would have been honored to have had him here in Illinois. But again, you've got that one green dot against the 999 red dots. So, getting anything changed for the better is impossible at this point for the most part. And the reason why that vote doesn't matter, I'm not saying that if you go in and vote, and a bunch of other people go in and vote likewise with you, I'm not saying that that person isn't going to get in office. But what I'm saying is the effect of that person in government is going to be minimal. Absolutely bottom level, ground, below the ground, minimal. Because you've got a needle in the haystack trying to be bigger than the haystack. It's not going to work. So it has to be dissolved. It has to be dismantled. They have to be dismissed. And again, I'm not saying overtaken. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying tell them you're fired, go home, and hold elections. Hold elections. That's what I'm saying. Essentially, it comes back to voting. But we have to remove the fruit that has been spoiled before we can do anything. And then there's other ground rules that we have to set forth. We have to set forth term limits right off the top. Term limits. Because those term limits will help prevent the corruption from getting so bad in the future. Next thing is change the description of lobbying to what it really is, bribery. And start charging corporations and individuals like that. In fact, I would go back and I would start charging, companies, corporations, and individuals retroactively. You have to make an example. You have to make an example of this. Folks, when we're not allowed to know where our meat comes from, when we're not allowed to have a say-so on whether or not GMO foods are labeled, when we're not allowed to have a say-so in any of this type of stuff, but yet they can put the regulations on vaping that they are, that's just one example. Look at how lopsided all of this is. California is a state in which everything causes cancer. Your toilet paper has probably got a warning on it saying that it can cause cancer in California. And that's no joke. I mean, everything has to be labeled in California as potentially causing cancer. Okay? But not Monsanto's Roundup. Oh no, that was just in the news not long ago. That Monsanto will not have to label their Roundup as possibly causing cancer. Now, is that insane or what? I mean, again, going back to vaping, they made the companies that make e-juice in the state of California label it as potentially cancer causing. Now, understand this. Nicotine is not a carcinogen. It doesn't have carcinogens in it. Nicotine is fine. Where you get the carcinogens when it comes to nicotine-related things is by the burning tobacco product. And in fact, you get much more carcinogens from the cigarette paper than what you do the tobacco in it. And if it was pure tobacco and it didn't have all the 5,000, 6,000 chemicals in it, and that's not an exaggeration, and it didn't have all the paper fillers in it, there wouldn't be much carcinogens in tobacco. See? Government protecting us again. So, the only way we're going to fix this is we have to remove the problem, which means all of them. Every single one of them. Aaron brings up a good point. He said we have to disqualify anyone who wants to be elected into office and appoint folks that don't want the job, but who are patriots enough to do it anyway. Now, I've said a lot of similar comments to that. The last people that we want in office are the ones that are fighting so hard to be there. And I've said essentially exactly what you're saying. We need to find the people that don't want the job, but would be responsible enough to do it right and give it to them. I've also been on record as to say we need to reincarnate George Carlin and put him as president for a couple of reasons. For one, he would straighten this country out real quick, and number two, that would be the most cruel joke we could play on him ever. But seriously, it's the only way we're going to fix this is to take it all down. And I don't mean overthrow. I don't mean I'm not even saying a revolution. Okay? I think the system is fine, especially if we go back and remove some of the stuff out of the system that's allowed the corruption to run so rampant. But if we use that core system that our forefathers designed, and we just cleared everything out and set in term limits, we would be a hell of a lot better off. We would be a hell of a lot better off. And start actually charging corporations and individuals that try to use money or gifts or anything else to persuade lawmakers into accepting their corruption. Charge them for what it is. I think the elections need to be publicly funded. I don't think there should be allowed any type of private funding whatsoever when it comes to elections and campaigns and all that stuff, because that gives an unfair advantage. And it's pretty sad when you've got third-party candidates that have done everything necessary that they need to do to qualify to be in the debates and wind up getting arrested on the property of where the debates are held because they're not allowed to go in. Even though they've met all the requirements to be in that debate, they're not allowed to go in that debate because guess what? People might hear them. It's insane. Now, that's happened the last several elections. I forget the woman's name in the Green Party. Jill Stein, I think. I think she was one of them that's been arrested. Gary Johnson, I believe, was arrested. So, I mean, it's insane. Absolutely insane. But we won't. Yeah, I just seen that, Aaron. That would be priceless. George Carlin's State of the Union addresses. You know what? When he would have the banquet dinner for the press and all that, he wouldn't even need to hire comedians. He could just take the stage, right? Save some money. See right there, George Carlin's already saving us some money. Oh man. So, it's really simple when you look at it. But before we can even get to that point, we have to stop telling everybody. And when I say we, I'm not talking about me. we have to stop telling everybody, well, you can't bitch if you can't, or if you don't vote, or you have to vote, or not voting is un-American, or, no, what's un-American is not having the willpower or the knowledge, to fix what's wrong. And there's clearly stuff wrong. And that's why, I will stand behind somebody if they hang their flag upside down. I can't stand behind somebody that burns the flag, but I can stand behind the right to do so. I don't have to like it. And I don't like it. But, the whole idea of the First Amendment is to stand up for not only what you feel, but for what everybody else feels too, right? Because stupid is as stupid does, right? Stupid ideas, as long as we don't have government to force them down our throat, stupid ideas that get washed down the toilet. Okay? The problem here lately, and I don't mean necessarily with Trump in office, it slowed down with Trump in office, but with Obama in office, it was like insane, right? You would get the smallest group of people, and their agenda would get crammed down everybody's throats, no matter how stupid of an idea it was, no matter how unliked an idea it was. And we're not talking things about, just allowing people to be people and do their own thing. We're talking about things that just, it should not even been involved in our government, especially federal government. But it got crammed down our throats. So we need the government to get out of that stuff. We need to let the government get out of it, especially the federal government. If the state government, the county government, if they want to get involved, and by the way, we need to pretty much do away with the city government. I'm not saying do away with mayors and all that. I'm saying do away with all the ordinances and the bylaws. When it comes to laws, I think that needs to stop at the county level. I really think that needs to stop at the county level. Because what is going on in cities and towns are insane. You've got a lot of cities and towns out there now that are charging and making you get a permit to have a yard sale. Then they're turning around and collecting the tax off of the money you make on that yard sale, right? And they've even got I talked about lemonade stands. They've even got some locations to where you can get a permit for your child to have a lemonade stand. This is insane. This is insane. The people are getting absolutely fleeced. Absolutely fleeced. And we have to quit the rhetoric. Well, if we don't have this, not, oh my God, who's going to build the roads? We will make sure the roads get taken care of. I can guarantee you that. We, the people, are not going to let this country just fall into dishevelment. Or I know I'm making up words, but we're not just going to let this country turn into a big steaming pile of crap because we don't have Big Daddy government to tell us what to do. Okay? In fact, we the people, I'm convinced, can do a much better job of taking care of the infrastructure of this country, and we can do it for much cheaper. We'll do it better, and we'll do it cheaper. But, gotta get that Big Daddy government out of the way. And before we can do that, it means we're going to have to remove these leeches from the offices they uphold. Okay? It's the only way to do it. The only way to do it. They're not going to step away. They're not going to walk away. They'll vote against you getting raises. They'll even vote against the military getting raises. But you better bet your ass that every time it comes up for them to get a raise, they vote in favor of it. We see it time and time and time again. And we the people, it would seem, is powerless over it. That's what they would like us to think. But we're not. We're not powerless. We're not helpless. We're not hopeless. We the people are the government. They've just got everybody convinced otherwise. We need to take our country back. And it doesn't have to be through revolution. It doesn't have to be through a takeover or overthrowing. It just has to be us giving a damn more about this country and its future and our children's future than we do the ball game or the TV show. But I've said that over and over and over. So I hope I've made some sense of this. Because it's one of those topics that I have to repeat and repeat and repeat as to why it does no good to vote. And again, I'm not telling people not to vote. Unlike how they tell people they have to vote, I'm not doing that. If it makes you feel good, if it makes you feel warm and fuzzy, if it touches your testicles, go vote. Most certainly go vote. But don't tell me I don't have a reason to bitch if I don't vote. Don't tell me I don't understand how it works if I don't vote. I'm just smart enough and have enough common sense to understand that it's way past that. And even if we do vote in a few good people, they're going to be overshadowed and overran by the bad people. That's where we're at as a country. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. It's just where we're at. It's the reality of it. It's a shame, but I'm going to wrap up the monologue. I wanted to better explain myself and my standpoint with that, and I thought it would be good to get in a monologue and get it out there because it's important, and I don't think we have a whole lot of time left to be able to fix this because it's getting ready to fall, and when it falls, they've already got plans and people in place to rebuild. Believe me, decades ago they've had that planned out. What do you think FEMA's all about to begin with? What do you think DHS is all about to begin with? The rebuilding of this country. We're just waiting for the fall, folks. We're just waiting for the fall. And I suspect it's coming anytime. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up the monologue. I want to thank those that just listened to the monologue. And for those that just listened to the monologue, I'd like to tell you that God bless you. We love you and be one with your spirit. All right. And for you poor souls that stick around for the rest of the show, I'm going to start out with a video from BP Earthwatch from last night. I haven't had a chance to watch this myself. It's titled Apocalyptic Images, Hawaii, 100 Dead, and Mount Fugo.
June the 7th, 2018. Looking at the USGS earthquake map from today, notice 94 of 121 earthquakes are near or almost near the summit of Kilauea. Also, there's a blue diamond. That is showing a 5.4, and that's coming from a volcanic eruption. That's just to the west of the main caldera right there. Now, guys, remember a couple of days ago, the walls of the caldera collapsed of that big crater lake and started damming it up. Well, we're seeing these explosions now. We're seeing massive fissures explode, and suddenly it wasn't a river. It was a tsunami of lava, covered a couple highways and rushed to the bay, destroying hundreds of homes. We'll take a look at that. But again, you've got quakes that are along this rift zone. That's one of the areas that moved almost 20 inches when all of this started, when we had the 6.9 earthquake, I think it was. You got one offshore there also, and one up north on the tallest mountain there. But guys, solar wind speed is important. It's starting to come back down some. Remember, we've had it a peak at close to 800 in the last 3 or 4 days. Now, it's 378 kilometers per second. That is still fast, almost 1,000,000 miles an hour. But in the purple line, you have the solar wind speed. Go back to June the 2nd, and actually to June the 1st, and it started peaking. Now, today on June the 7th, guys, going into the 8th universal time, we see it coming back to normal. But these spikes are 2 to 3 times higher than normal. We are reaching 1.8 million miles an hour. Now, again, we're down to about 900,000 miles an hour. And you can look at your dates. Check this out. So we had basically coming in from the 1st, just coming down out of on the 7th, about 7 days of elevated wind speed, but you had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of really accelerated wind speed. Solar wind speed, guys, and the energy is collected by the shields and transferred into the core of our planet. It happens during solar minimum. We talk about that a lot. But here it's 792 kilometers per second back on July 3rd. Remember, as long as it takes it to heat up, it takes it to cool down. But at 800 kilometers a second, you're at 1.79 million miles per hour. Very fast, very intense. It's almost unimaginable. Now we're back down to 378 as far as the kilometers per second. That's 845,000 plus miles an hour. Today, looking at the sun from the Solar Dynamics Observatory, there are no significant equatorial coronal holes on the Earth's side of the sun. Guys, that's the open places in the sun that lets out these massive solar streams. Let's look behind the sun at stereo A. No coronal holes showing. This is the sunspot we watch come around on the Earth-facing side. Now, there's some lighter areas involved, but as long as they don't open, we're going to get a reprieve from the double and triple solar winds, or the double and triple speed of the solar winds. Again, this is the backside. It's turning to the right. Let's go back to the front side from a different image of the Solar Dynamics Observatory. At the top, you see a coronal hole at the bottom, and there may be, you can see some weaker areas here and along this line. As long as that area there does not open up, it's going to give us a reprieve from the intense winds. That should help on some of the more intense lava flows. Remember, fuego, which means fire down in Guatemala, guys. Over 100 now are dead. Some of the research and rescue folks have had to be called off. But this, again, Earth-facing side, everything's moving from left to right. Guys, these are unbelievable images. This is where lava has completely covered vacation land, is pouring to the ocean into that bay there. It got another area. But this lava, look at how the dark areas just behind the smoke. That's where it came down from the mountain, and from actually the fissure started about 25 miles below the summit. Going to satellite images, this is before it hit the bay. The bay is the dark area to the right. Look at the lava movement. And this is not just low or ground lava. Look at the height coming up behind the houses. But it went past this point, this beautiful bay in front of it. Now it has filled way out into the ocean. Dead fish, dead turtles. All types of dead marine life are floating up now, because in the air alone it creates hydrochloric acid when this ash hits salt water. So down below you've got fish that are exposed to extreme temperatures and different chemical elements. Now the red area is where the lava has not hit yet, and you see the ocean to the right. The black area is where the lava. This is from Digital Globe. This is the image as far as a real-time photograph. You can see the areas. Now it is changed. It has burned through all of the different, the two different beach resorts. The homes that were spared were on hills that were higher than the lava field. Now there is no bay as it was. Now it is more of an outlet or a peninsula going out. How many years will it be before you can inhabit the land? It was like this in the beginning. It took hundreds of years, in some cases, thousands in others, to develop these forests on top of this layer of lava rock. Look at the amount that's pouring in. The heat of the lava is so hot that it's running almost like water. You've seen some lower or slower magma movements. Look at this, guys. Look at the speed pouring out of this. Some of these fountains have been welled up above 500 feet. And some even higher than that if you look at all the images. But again, it burned through. Now it's pushing out into the bay. It is forming new land. People are losing cropland. They're losing homes. And a good bit of the crops on this island were affected. Some estimates are up to 50% by the lava. Now, there's so much going on that we don't know what's going on at the geothermal plant. Now, this will give you an excellent idea of how wide this lava flow is. Look behind the steam. Look at the size of the homes. And these homes were not in the direct path. Some may be slightly higher in elevation, but they're not safe yet. The lava's still coming. Now, all the way into the ocean, not a new bay, but a new, more or less, not a full peninsula, just a great extension of the land. But look at how hot it is and how fast it's flowing. This is core temperature heat, and the core is heating up because of our weakened shields. It's all across the island. You're looking at USGS copters flying through there. Look at how it's going into the forest and burning the trees down as the lava starts to spread and flow into that. It's almost unimaginable, but you can see different sections of cropland And look at the width of this. Guys, have you ever been out in New Mexico in the Valley of Fire where that old lava flow comes in there, and just in that park, you've got that one island that where the park is and the campsites are, guys, that are on the small hill. But this, if it keeps going, it's going to wipe out more and more of the cropland, more and more of the forest. But it is an evolving island, and it is a shame that people are trapped there that have had their livelihood there in hotels, farms, other bed and breakfasts, whatever, tour industries. But it is a volcano, and because of solar minimum, weaker shields, and more of this heat pouring in, this activity is going to increase around the planet. Now, you're going to have days when it slows down some as the solar wind speed is dropping. It'll have some time to cool off, and depending on when the next solar wind or geomagnetic storm continues. But right now, even in normal conditions, guys, even at less than 400 kilometers per second, as far as the solar wind, the energy continues to pour in. We're going to look at the magnetopause in this video, but just try to imagine the scope and the size of this tsunami of lava as it burns through. Again, look at the cropland, the trees. When Mother Nature is ready, there's nothing you can do to stop it. But you can imagine this island evolving. Now, there's been eruptions throughout the years, but during the solar minimums, it would be nice to see the history of the eruptions on this island. I'm sure someone did the research as far as the geological research of the different the different ages of the lava flows. Bet you we would see a lot of correlation. But again, guys, even the areas to where it doesn't reach and burn, you can notice such a yellowed edge from not only heat but gases. But major roads have been cut off. There are no in and outs in a lot of places. There are people that are trapped, and I think they try to go over with the helicopters and try to see if they can see anyone in there. But some of these areas, as it reaches down to the bay, some of it has now reached out, burnt these houses, and has extended out beyond that coral reef line there where you see the breakers and further. But so far, some homes have been spared, a lot have not. But check out these USGS images. It looks like a Jurassic era. But there's days and days of this coming, guys, because we've seen all of the buildup since June the 2nd up until today starting to pan out a little bit. So if you got about 5 days of the heat buildup, how long will that take to decrease down? But look at these lava fountains. It's amazing. And it's like the beginning of the planet in a lot of ways. We've seen different volcanic explosions around the planet, but this is one of the most amazing that we've ever seen. It's completely the rebuilding of an island, the add-on of an island. Now, just try to imagine the scope of that lava fountain from this distance. That thing could be 700, 800, maybe 1,000 feet high. Because look at the amount of lava that's pouring from it, and maintaining the heat at that distance to be that fluid. Again, USGS helicopter images, tremendous amount of cropland. The geothermal plant that we've talked about more or less has been covered up pretty much. I don't know if it will ever be reopened. It was in a very dangerous place. Some people said it did not involve fracking. Guys, it did. They were injecting high temperature water and chemicals down into the rock to force that steam and it cracked, and it forced that steam back up. So it is fracking, regardless of what you think. But again, guys, this, if it keeps up like that, will build a new caldera. That the size of these, the width, the temperature is almost unbelievable. Never seen anything like it in my life, and I doubt many of you have either. Now, in the part 2 of this video coming up, guys, I'm going to keep this one about 10 minutes or so. But again, look at this. In part 2, we're going to go to the Fuego volcano, and we're going to look at CERN in that one. CERN is running hot. The shields are weak, and we're going to show you the effects of what CERN has done today. And look at the images. Incredible. Again, slow-moving lava is cooler. You see a lot of the mostly black rock on top pushing forward, but here you're seeing the rivers and lakes of fire with this lava. But guys, we're watching it. You watch it. You guys in Hawaii, this is not over. My point again, weak shields. This is how the Earth goes through these things, and this is a grand solar minimum. But again, just to touch on the fuego, or fire in Spanish volcano, now 100 are feared dead. They're saying that the ash has fallen across more than half of Guatemala, covering areas where agricultural areas is crucial. We hope that that alone, the crop damage, will not mean a secondary disaster. They had to suspend rescue efforts, but again, rescue work at Guatemala volcano interrupted. Death toll hits 100. The search for survivors from deadly eruptions had to be canceled because of dangerous situations. Today, June 7th, this is why. Look at the quakes. And the one in the blue right there, guys, notice it doesn't have the peak of the lines because it clipped out. It was stronger than it looks. These are images from a day ago. It's just repeating, I realize, but this volcano is over 12,000 feet high. This is from the other edge, and you see the main area. But this is molten hot lava, just like we're seeing west of here on the equator in Hawaii. Again, if you look at the Hawaiian volcano here at Kilauea, and you move from there, you move eastward to Fuego, you're very close to the equator. Now think about a ball spinning like our planet is, and you have in some instances you have water. In some other instances you have these large, gigantic magma pools. The centrifugal force will keep the most of that energy near the equator. You just got to understand the fluid dynamics of it. But just draw a line from Fuego to Hawaii, and then if you go back the other way, you're looking over at in the area of the southern Japan volcanoes. But you can see here at 12,346 feet for the Mountain of Fire, Fuego. But guys, if you look to Japan, we need to watch a couple of areas. One, if you'll pull it up again, southern Japanese islands, there's a volcano there that is on red alert. It's not currently erupting, but it's called Kirishima. It is 5,577 feet high, but it's along that equatorial band. So we just watch it, guys. A lot of the links that I'm using are on our website, but I want to go here for a moment and look at the magnetopause. Very strange events indeed. Look at the almost black coloration, guys. If you've seen my videos for a long time, this is always blue or a yellow band. That's showing you extremely low density on the chart of solar particles. Solar minimum, if it's not during a geomagnetic storm with high solar wind speeds, guys, these shields are extremely weak because of this. That line that's just above 10 on the bottom normally stands out to around 12 where I've got that bottom line area. But these dark areas are extremely unusual. This means that this solar minimum could be much stronger than we think. Now, this distortion at the North Pole of the magnetic field lines every time corresponds to CERN running at 13.5 tera electron volts. And why would it bend it at the north? Because CERN is in the northern hemisphere, right into the Hall currents, the field lines, and under the auroras. The auroras are signs of where the most energy is coming in from our field lines. But guys, this is very dark coloration. The chart to the bottom right tells you how low that the proton density is around our planet, between us and the sun, and even creeping into inside some of the satellite bands. Look at the coloration, completely different. And your timestamp going from this morning or just after midnight throughout the day. But again, the lowest colorations I've seen in almost 7 years on this particular chart. And it's just showing me that the density of the protons, the electrical charge, is very low. That means the shields are very weak, because that's what controls the strength of our shields. That's what determines how strong the dynamo generating inside this planet that makes our shields is running. But look at the colorations as we go through the days. Almost black to the right. Look at the deep purples. Guys, can you ever remember seeing that in any of my videos or anyone else's that covers this? Never seen it. It's extremely concerning to me, because that it's going to indicate as the darker these colorations go, the less energy, the weaker the shields. And as they get weaker and we have a sudden geomagnetic storm, the lava is going to reheat. The quakes are going to increase. And I mentioned this before, during these grand solar events, they can tie them into the Martyr Minimum and other cooling periods, and via ice core drilling, they can see that they had heavy volcanic ash fall during solar minimums, and these are cooling periods. Here you see the shields are doing a fairly good job at keeping the cusp closed. Not a lot of energy pouring in from this red band. The planet is in the center of this. The white section of that center ball is sun facing. This is the energy burning off from the shields, and the energy is coming from right to left. This is going to change. Notice this is just before, just after midnight last night, universal time. So we go through the day. You're going to see different bending of the polar cap, the closed magnetic field lines, and you're going to see those what are called cusp, C-U-S-P, cusp, open, and you're going to see the red energy from this outer shield burn off, just like the space shuttle coming in, guys. And you see that burning off. That's what we're dealing with the sun. Now you're starting to see at 900 hours, this red line starting to creep in. And what happens when it comes in through this opening? It hits our ionosphere, guys. Heats everything up. The field lines transfer the energy. Notice on the southern poles, the same thing. But as we go through, I'll stop it, and you'll see that energy increase. If you guys were out in the sunshine today, you felt it. And now you almost have a complete connection in the northern hemisphere here at 1000 hours universal time. And as we go through this, you're going to see both cusps fully involved. And I'll show you where CERN was running full power during these events, because there's no reason for them to collapse that far and that much energy. Again, look at the red turning to orange in the southern cusp here. That's pouring into the ionosphere, heating everything up, bombarding the Earth with gamma radiation. That's been increasing quite a bit over the last few years. Now look at the complete saturation of both the northern and southern cusp. So at 1300 hours, guys, that's about 500 hours ahead of Eastern time. So this morning at around 8 o'clock, it was already getting rough on the East Coast if you were working outside in the sun, and across the nation and across the planet if you look at the times. Again, saturation of the both openings in the shields going up into the day. You're looking at very low density blowing back, just like we saw on the low on the chart before, when you're dealing with plasma at this point. But again, we get a break at around 1700 hours. Remember this timing from the energy coming in through the openings and again northern southern cusp. It starts to pick back up, and you can see some bending of the blue IMF lines, and again the cusp are opening. The ionosphere is getting bombarded. When it hits our ionosphere, guys, it scatters into what they call a spray. Look at your time zones from CERN today. Notice June 7th. Now it's down. You can see it 0, but through the day from 2300 hours just before midnight. Now again, CERN does not use universal time. They're 2 hours ahead of that. They use this Geneva Swiss time. So you look at your timing. A long period of time when we saw the cusp completely come in. On the image before that in the magnetopause, we saw them start to collapse from the northern hemisphere. Why did it stop at that point? This is the cryogenic page. They were running so hot that this section right there, AMR-R3 and CS, blew. If it gets above this 2 point line and K right there, it's too hot. They have to keep these beams inside this giant collider very cold, almost the temperature of space, to not blow things. And this one jumped. As soon as one of those ring cooling sections gets above that temperature or blows whatever it does, they have to shut it down. But again, they are allowing now 2,556 bunches at 6.5 electron volts. That's per beam. When they collide, it's 13 electron volts. When you saw the cryogenics heat up, they shut it down. Now, normally the beams, like right there, guys, and right there are matched. They're these magnets inside these large tunnels that have to be so cold, keep them aligned and colliding. But when they turned it off because of that overheating, they just spin out in this outward pattern, guys, because no longer are they being controlled. Do you wonder why they have red auroras over CERN? This is over Geneva, Switzerland. This is where we're talking about. Look at those auroras. This energy is being pulled into the ground via the Hall currents, which are ground currents. Where CERN, it's underground in the same area, and it's feeding off of that energy. When it feeds off that energy, and let's go back. What are they doing? Some say they're looking for the going back in time to the big burst. Why is that? Was that when God cast the angels down and closed that opening back into heaven? And they're trying to open it back, free themselves? Because it is definitely fallen angel technology. Again, look at these red auroras over Geneva. As there's a lot going on, we're paying attention to it. And just a heads up on this, guys, so many have requested that that Patriot Supply continue the Alexa Pure at the lowest price ever and exclusively on our channel at $149. They're going to run it through Monday, guys. That's almost adding another entire week. But if you're looking for one, if you're looking for something that will keep your family alive, the best water filter at the best price, you're looking at 1.4 cents per gallon. Think about it. It's $1 per gallon for spring water off the shelf. Guys, don't forget it. It's a heads up. I'll put the link in the description below. Be safe.
Alrighty, and today he put out another video just not long before I went on the air. And I'm going to go ahead and play that now because it directly relates to this video here. And this is just absolutely alarming information, as like the title says, and as well as important information. So again, BP Earthwatch, the video is titled Alarmingly Weak Energy Around Earth's Shields.
June the 8th, 2018. You're looking at images from today from a webcam from the USGS on Mount Kilauea, and this is looking southwest at the lower east rift zone. In the center is fissure number 8. It has been very explosive, very high. Now, in the left side of the image, in the left center, is fissure 15. But this fissure 8, guys, has been incredibly active. It's filled up the bay there and cover up the entire vacation land. This is also from today. They had another 5.2, maybe a little stronger than that, quake that set off an explosion right in the center of the caldera. If you look, you've got 129 out of 164 quakes centered right here. Now, this is a 5.2 volcanic eruption. Those same diamonds, I've talked about it before, indicate it could be a mining blast or something like that. But in this case, is an explosion because, again, the inner walls caved in and we started seeing the building of pressure. At the top of USGS image that's new, at the bottom, the Google map area, this is what was vacation land and another village. Now this area here is an older lava field. You can see the roads are there in both pictures. But now the bay is gone, and that's from fissure number 8 that we're seeing pumping. Right around this edge is separating the old lava from the new. The new lava has a lighter brown and is much higher. The houses to the right must be slightly elevated, or they would have probably gone down. But look how wide the new lava field is. It got 600 homes now. Suddenly, within hours, this came upon them. And they said it was one of the most beautiful bays for snorkeling, fishing, and all of that stuff. But this is the evolution of our planet. But this area, guys, right there, notice the similarity. Now, all behind this is gone. All the houses outside of that red and blue circle are gone. Everything behind it is gone, so it doesn't take long when you add up what was already taken out and what we're seeing now gone. But look at the subdivision here as we go around the outline of the new, I guess you would call it the new point. Instead of a bay, it's now a point. But all of that is now wrapped in lava. It's has everything to do with the weakened shields, guys, and I'm extremely concerned about how weak they're rapidly becoming. It's amazing to see that. We're going to look at it. And we are looking at the volcano map. This is on our website, BP Earth Watch, down at the bottom. Check it out. I talked about this equatorial boundary for the last few videos. We've got the Kilauea volcano. We've got Fuego. Now there's one just a few miles from Fuego that has gone off, and lava is coming out of it now. Now, it does this more often than the other volcanoes, but we are in an extremely dangerous zone. But you've got Mount Fuego here. It's a stratovolcano. And if you look, you've got one above it. You got the Santiago. But here, the Pacaya volcano is erupting now with hot lava. Now, it's a complex volcano. It's not 12,000 feet up like Fuego, guys. It's 8,373 feet. If you look at the webcams and things, not much is showing except this. It looks like constant movement of the earthquake monitors, guys, probably due to the flow and the output of that lava. But this is from that volcano. They're saying the National Institute of Seismology, Volcanology and Meteorology and Hydrology in Guatemala has reported that lava flow has formed on the north side of the Pacaya volcano. And they say this is normal, but guys, what we're seeing at the other two volcanoes is not normal, and I doubt this is normal. Remember when Kilauea started first erupting? Pretty normal, they talked about. Now, the U.S. is helping. A group of survivors in the volcanic eruption in Guatemala, going back to Fuego, has been given special dispensation to get treatment in the U.S. An air ambulance will take 6 patients, 3 of whom are ages 12 to 16, and required special treatment for their injuries to Galveston, Texas. The humanitarian visas were quickly prepared by the U.S. Attorney General, guys. We are not a country against another country. We just don't like foreign countries trying to overrun our country. Guys, there's a difference. This is what Fuego looks like now. This is the pyroclastic flow. But guys, when the cloud was coming out, you're looking at 500-degree temperatures, mountains of pyroclastic dust, ash mixed with rain. Look at how deep they're having to dig to get the bodies out of here. But the villages on the slopes were buried in volcanic ash, and rescue work was disrupted after a new eruption on Tuesday spewed gas and molten rock down the volcano's south side. The new eruption took experts by surprise. Eddie Sanchez of Guatemala's National Institute of Seismology has said only recently that he expected no imminent eruption over the next few days. I'm going to tell the people there that are listening, the same as I did in Hawaii. This is just getting started. Now, there was no evacuations orders given before Sunday's eruption, and although locals have been trained to deal with such an emergency, the volcanic activity happened too quickly, Urbina said in a press conference. Guys, these are going back to the first day of the eruption. That's how fast it can happen. They had no indication. They didn't have any extreme seismic activity, no quake swarms or anything else. It just happened. Villages were buried before they could move. Now, let's look at CERN a moment. Notice your timestamp. This is today on the 8th. The black line, guys, indicates they're running both beams at full power. The red and blue lines are beam 1 and beam 2. Same thing happened today. They didn't get to run as long as they wanted to. They overheated. This is what you would normally see, what you would normally see are the two bright areas there and over on this side. But when they have to shut down the magnets because the colliders are overheating, then it spins out the way you see it now. It's not in that perfectly magnetically controlled point to where both beams collide head on. That's where they get the energy. And you can see again, they're having heating problems, guys. This may have everything to do with this solar minimum. Yesterday it was this CMAR3 section. Today it's the AMR7 that came above that 2 line. And you can see right here, 1100 hours, they almost all went above that. When they do that, guys, they have to shut it down. They have to keep it, this thing down to this cold temperature. They don't want a lot of problems with this thing. But guys, this is amazing right here to me. Now, this is today. Look at the right side of this. It's dark purple and almost black. That is very unusual. That indicates, if you look at this chart in the bottom right of this particular model, very, very low energy. I've never seen it before in my life. I mentioned it before. Also, that red line is where the white curved line that is our magnetopause is usually at. So it's pushed closer to the Earth by 2 points here. But we've seen that before. But what we're seeing now, guys, is unprecedented in my 7 years of watching this particular model. Normally, the outside of this is blue. And I'm going to go back to just 7 days ago when we started getting that solar wind stream coming in and elevating at very high speeds, how everything changed on this chart. The graph here even changed that you measure it by. But again, 12 is right there. That's normally where your white curve line is. Also, look at the coloration in this. Remember, it's already open beyond blue into the dark purple and almost black in several areas. This indicates low energy. That's not good for our shields. That means any solar stream, any activity, any gamma ray energy, anything coming from outside our solar system, like a gamma ray burst, would be extremely dangerous. A solar flare at this point. Let's go back to 6-1, guys. Just 7 days ago. See how blue this is out here? Notice your chart in the bottom. It doesn't have the purple in it. Right there. That is not in existence. This is how it's always been. You'd see the flare-ups and you'd see the flexing and the bending. But we had that much energy involved in this torrent coming from the sun that activates our shields. So the weaker that energy is, the weaker our shields. And we have CERN running again. But look at this, guys. Coming into the second, late into the first, when we saw that solar stream hit, watch the coloration start changing and the lowering of the energy. It's like this is swept so much back behind the Earth as it's becoming darker and darker. The energy is lowering. Now you still have a pretty good purple base there. But guys, again, back it up at 6-1. Everything changed right here at this frame at 14:21 universal time. I've never seen it happen before, and it indicates not higher energy, but lower energy, which is devastating for our shields. You can see some of the manipulation from CERN during that time. We covered it, but it gets worse than this. Let's go back to today. Starting yesterday, it's on the 7th. Look at the entire chart's changed. None of that bright blue. None of it. Guys, this is not good. Again, you've got to think of the Earth as a dynamo or electric motor. The North Pole and the South Pole is where you would connect the current. And the less current, the slower the motor goes. The weaker the shields become. And the shields are a reaction to the spinning of the Earth's dynamo. They're created at that point. But let's look at this. To the left, today on the 8th, look at the coloration of the low energy outside of our magnetopause and inside now because of that. Let's go back on the right picture, 6-1, 2018. Totally different picture. I've never seen what we're seeing now. It does not look good. I hope this thing rebounds. We will have to wait and see, because, guys, again, you would think, well, you would want weaker energy, but not when it is the controlling factor of our protective shields. If that is not energized, they become weaker and weaker. Again, coronal mass ejections, solar flares, coronal holes that give us those large solar wind streams. So if this one that we just went through for about 6.5 days stripped this much energy away from between us and the sun and behind us, what will the next one do? Will we see it return before that happens? It hasn't changed since late into the first. But I'm watching it, guys. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe. Remember, they gave us until Monday an extended time on the the Alexa Pure water filtration system, the best in the world. Get it now. It's never been that low, and it is exclusively at bpearthwatch.com. It's a heads up. Be safe.
Wow, pretty crazy, actually. Okay, the video I'm going to play next is a continuation of a video we watched yesterday, and I wanted to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, Guildbrook Farm, Off-Grid Living, did a video today, or yesterday, showing them firing up and explaining a little bit about their solar system. And he said that today he would be putting out the video talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's exactly what this is. Again, the channel is Guildbrook Farm, Off-Grid Living. The video is titled Do It Yourself Off-Grid Solar, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Alright, this is sort of a bonus video for our DIY off-grid solar electrical installation series. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Everything that went wrong, everything that went right, and quite a few things went wrong, which is why this series is taking a while for us to get out. We had 2 solid weeks of rain, so that delayed us in getting our panels set up. We got our power center, and I went ahead and bought a pre-wired power center, so hoping that it would save me some time, at least a day's worth of time. And we got it hung on the wall. That thing weighs about 186 pounds. We got it hung on the wall, turned it on, and it ran for about 12 hours. And then one of my charge controllers went flaky and started reporting over voltage when there was no over voltage. About an hour after that, the inverter quit. It had a temperature fault, and so we had a heck of a time getting all that remedied and getting the warranty parts. I called Midnight Solar, told them what the problem was. They had no problem, no issues. They asked me a few questions, immediately shipped me out a new controller, which is what I just got here. And their warranty service is excellent. I mean, they pre-shipped me a new charge controller, and I'll ship them, and they prepaid the shipping for me to ship it back, the bad one. So they're an awesome company. I'll only buy Midnight Solar stuff from now on. The other thing that went bad was one of the surge protection devices on the second array has condensation in it, so it was not sealed from the factory. And you don't want condensation in there because it can eventually corrode, and that can cause your voltages to do weird things too. That's also in this box. So again, Midnight Solar, thumbs up, double thumbs up, amazing company. That's why they have such a great name in the industry. Now, Magnum, the Magnasign inverter, totally different story. Their warranty service kind of sucks. I called them, told them what was going on. The guy on the phone, after I got a hold of him after 2 days, the guy on the phone thought he knew what it was, but wouldn't send me the part. I had to go to an authorized service center. That's about a 2-hour drive from here. And so I had arranged to have him overnight it to the service center. I had spoken to the service center guy, had to coordinate all this. I drove the inverter to the service center. and was expecting the guy to fix it and then I could leave with it. The guy fixed it, but that didn't fix it. Apparently there was something else wrong with the inverter. So this is like we're a week into having no power because I got my old system tore out, I got my new system in, but it's half done. So we're running on generators. So I had to drive back from that service center that day. I left the inverter there. I'm just kind of pissed off. Last resort, I called altestore.com, and this is the reason why you want to work with a good distributor. Inside baseball, little full disclosure here, I worked in the electrical distribution industry for 10 years as a head of IT, so I understand how they work. I know the distributors, the dealers, all those kinds of things, and these guys are just that. They're a distributor. They're not a manufacturer. They don't warrant anything. They sell the stuff. So I called them, explained what the problem was, asked them if they would overnight me an inverter, Saturday delivery, so that I could get up and running. She was perfect. Sonia was the queen of customer service. If you're out there and you have a company that is customer focused, you should model your customer service people after Sonia at altestore.com. All she cared about was making sure I got up and running. She immediately FedExed me a new inverter, and Saturday came, which was the next day, and the FedEx guy didn't show up. He just decided that he wasn't going to come that day, I guess. I don't know what happened. So we got it Monday, which was yesterday, and I installed it, and it works perfect. The new inverter works great, but the whole warranty service process of Magnum inverters is crap. I will never buy another Magnum inverter. I don't care how good they are, how good they say they are. I won't get one, just because you have to deal with that. The whole reason we built our system the way we did, with 2 charge controllers, we've got 2 generators, is backup, backup, backup. But we didn't have a backup inverter. But the first inverter is still at the service center. The guy can't get the right part sent to him from Magnum, but if and when he does get it fixed, I will then have a backup inverter. So we'll be double backed up all over the place. Anyway, that was a rant, just to explain kind of the whole situation that has been going on with this project. altestore.com is where I will always buy my stuff. I will always buy Midnight Solar stuff. Probably won't buy another Magnum product, Sensata Technologies product. And that's that. Well, that was the bad and the ugly. Here's some of the good. This is Kit. She's a teacup Yorkie, and we got her about a week ago. She's going to be our little house doggy. Might get another one. I don't know. They're kind of cool. Cute. Portable pet. So I'm going to replace this SPD that has condensation in it. I'm going to replace this bad charge controller, and then we'll have our system 100%. The good news is, this morning, like I said, we charged our batteries on half our array with only the 1 charge controller in about an hour. So like by 10:30 a.m. batteries were 100%, and we just were rocking and rolling. So installing inverter number 2, because the first one was junk. Hopefully this will get us back in business. Now I gotta wire it all back up. Perfect example. This ground lug, the set screw, the slot on the set screw is offset out of center, so it just snapped. Not real impressed with these inverters so far. Magnesign has a real good name historically. At some point in the past, I don't know when, they were bought by a company called Sensata, and since then I don't think the quality is the same. Maybe it's just my bad luck, but the first inverter was no good. It had 2 bad boards in it. This one I'm going to hook up and we'll see if it works, but so far I have not been impressed with Magnum inverters. Got the inverter hooked up. We'll flip on the batteries, the main battery switch over here, And hopefully this thing powers up. Cross your fingers. Alright, well I turned it on and there's no faults. The last one had a temperature fault, thought it was 303 degrees, which was impossible. So now we're going to set up the inverter. Got to set the clock. Okay, now it's in search mode. I've got the main load center turned on over there to the house, and it's searching for draw. So I'm going to turn on the inverter breaker. Inverting. Alright, so it's producing power. It's taking power from the batteries, inverting it, and putting it out AC to the house. Got the SPD on. Now we'll put the new charge controller to replace the bad one. These things are pretty heavy. This weighs about 12 pounds. And you got a battery temperature sensor, which we're not going to use because we already have it installed. Alright, this is the lead you plug into the front cover here to get it to the display to work. This is your Ethernet port if you wanted to monitor it on your computer. This is for the battery temperature sensor, which we're not going to use because our master controller already has that, and we're going to link these together in Follow Me. And these are the terminals to connect your battery plus, battery minus, PV minus, PV plus. They're pretty simple to set up. These are the vents. These knockouts are already knocked out. They don't know where you want to run wires, so I know that we want our knockouts or our vents in here. Alright, and then our wires are going to run through here, through a little channel. I'm keeping that sticker because it's just cool. Keeping that sticker because it's just cool. There we go. Now I'll wire it up. Now the reason I shut this controller down and took the face off so that I could make sure I got these connected together correctly. So this bottom one, right, this slave out goes into the master in right there, and then kind of run this down here into this little white clip. And then the master from here goes into the slave in here. Now that allows you to configure the Follow Me feature, where you can network a whole bunch of these together, like up to 255 of them. And so this one has the battery temperature sensor connected to it, which goes down to this battery here. And so when this gets battery temperature, it can send it to all the other ones. Everything is reconnected. Got it bolted up. Ground is connected. The positive from the array is here. Negative battery, positive battery, and all of our Follow Me cables are hooked up. Everything looks good, so I'm going to test some voltage. Now I'm going to put the fronts back on. So you take this gadget here, plug it in. It's just like a Ethernet cable, and make sure you don't pinch it on anything. Almost forgot this part. I'm going to cover these terminal blocks with this blue piece that they give you, just to make it nice. Okay, moment of truth. Everything's buttoned back up. We're going to power up these controllers. Let's give some power to this one first. Let it boot up. Okay. We'll turn on the input from the solar panels. It's about 6 o'clock right now, and all the panels are right about in shade, so we're not going to get much, but it's resting anyway. Actually, now it's going to charge a little bit. Alright, so this is the new one. We're going to see if we get... I got to program this one to work with this one. Alright, so far so good. I got this programmed to match this. This one's following this one. This voltage is normal now. The last one was crazy, but I have not turned on the power from the panels to the controller on this one. So that's what we're going to do now, and cross your fingers. $83, it's equalizing, 315 watts. Those are like two panels are still in the sun over there. So this one is getting pushing 5.6 amps, this one's pushing 1.4, this one's all the way in the shade right now. This one has not yet fully been moved into the shade yet, so working. Now everything is 100%. Well, finally, we're 100%. Everything's working exactly the way it's supposed to, the way it should have from the very beginning. And so that's it. That's going to wrap up our DIY solar electric installation series. I hope it was helpful for some of you. It's been an adventure for me. I think it was about 3 weeks from the time we ordered till the time we just flicked it all on and for the second time. So we got a few more videos coming up on more of this solar type stuff. We're going to hook up a 24 volt battery bank for just DC appliances, and we still got to make our rain catchment system. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. I need a holster. Do they make like fanny packs for dogs? I could hang 2 of them on. She's sleeping?
Kit. 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 Come on, Kit.
That was funny. Oh man, yeah, I'll tell you, that's a shame. Running into all those problems with brand new equipment. That's crazy. Okay, it's right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and play it. Patriot Nurse came out with one, and then I'll do Prepper Nurses that just came out. Patriot Nurse just came out with one titled "How to Find Water, Divining Rods, and Water Witching."
This is Patriot Nurse, and in today's segment I'm going to show you how to use a divining rod, also known as water witching. And there's no witchcraft involved in this, that's just the Appalachian term for it. But the method I'm going to show you is from my great-grandfather, and it involves the use of your standard clothes hangers. But you take your clothes hangers here and you bend them at a 90-degree angle. So you need 2 of these to do this. And what we're going to do here is basically use the Earth's magnetic forces to show us where the water is. This is really helpful, by the way, if you're looking for a property and you want to know, is there water on it? It's not a 100% foolproof way, but it's pretty darn helpful. So you need 2 hangers that are bent at 90 degrees like this, and then get you some straws, like a sippy straw, and cut it off so that way they have a little sheath to sit in, so that way when they move, you will not impede their movement. Now what I'm going to show you here is basically whenever we walk around, if there's water over an area, the wires are going to cross like this. I'm not doing this, I'm holding it basically freehand like this so it'll move. So come with me, I'm going to show you, and we're going to show you what it looks like when you find water. I'm pretty sure there's water around here. And you'll feel it. This is a good thing to do with your kids. Here we go. Yep. You see it? Now let's see if I can't repeat it. I'll walk back here. Now they're straight. No water. Now let's see if it'll come back again. Yep. Water. So you can do this with your kids or wherever in the yard. It'll also cross over if there's large amounts of metal, like some buried metal pipe. But we do not have that. We actually have a lot of water on the property, thank God. But that's what it looks like. And when you use the method like this, they'll cross around. Oh yeah, and those are the chickens. That's King Noble, the rooster. You can probably figure out why if you do a little search on YouTube as to who King Noble is. He's a lot of mouth, a lot of bark, not a lot of bite. He likes to puff up real big, but all he's going to do is peck you. That's it. But that's all, y'all. I hope it was helpful for you. If you did enjoy the video, hope you'll subscribe to me. You can also follow me on Patreon as well. And I teach classes regarding medical prep and also regarding homesteading and nutrition, herbs, and old school disease. So you can check that out at the website. I hope it was helpful for y'all. Have a wonderful weekend. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off. I'll see y'all later. Bye.
Alrighty. Yeah, my dad taught me about how to do that a long time ago. Alright. Here is Prepper Nurse 1. He's got a video titled Updates from Around the Homestead.
So there's Mom, chilling out now. Worked her like a Hebrew slave today, which was good for her, builds character. Got to get all the work out of her I can before she dies, so that's important. I'm only kidding, guys, so please don't take that badly. Today is an update video. Today is June 8th. It's Friday, 2018. And the reason today I didn't have to actually look at my phone to see what day it was is because tomorrow is my birthday. And so I knew that since tomorrow is June 9th, that today has to be June 8th. So I'll show you too, actually. There's the kitten. She's right over there. Heading over underneath her. So anyway, she still won't let us get close to her. The kitten won't. What are you going to do? We still feed her, and so we're taking care of her as far as that goes. So anyway, I want to give a quick shout out to Conservative Views by Christine. Her birthday is also June 9th, which is an awesome day, of course. So happy birthday, Christine, out there on the West Coast. I hope everything is going well for you out there. So update video today is basically what it is. What have we been doing? So I'm going to kick this around here real quick and show you what is left of our stone pile. I have been banging this out, and it has been a whole lot of fun. I have that much left to go, but I'll be honest with you, I am out of gas today. So there's nothing left in the tank. So the rest of that will get done tomorrow. So it's not a big deal. But made really good progress. It was a pretty good sized pile. And I'm doing it all by hand with a shovel and a wheelbarrow and then raking it out. So what are we doing with all that stone? Okay, so I added a lot more stone in this area here. I don't know if you guys can actually see the difference. If you look, you can kind of, yeah, right through here you can see. But we filled in this here whole area. Put more along the side here. Got more in front of the box here that we got out here. So did that. Here's my boy Max. He will not go in the house until I go in. He's so funny. So I also, over here, I was building this up today as well. Adding more stone in this area. So let me pull back so if you can, I think you guys can see the difference. Yeah, you can. So there's to the edge of the old stone. So then we put new stone all through here. And I probably put 4 wheelbarrows through in here and filled in this whole area right here with more stone just to build this up. Eventually, and like I told you guys, we're going to have the path extended out, and it will go all the way down to the little outbuilding that we have where I keep my Harley. And so eventually this will go right down through the path and over right to our little outbuilding there. And then I'll probably end up making a path over to the chicken coop as well. So we'll see how all that goes. Depends on how much stone I have and time and all that good stuff. So we're doing that. What I also did with the pile, there's Mr. Buddy and Mr. Max, my main man. So I also, with this pile, I pulled some of the stone out this way, okay? Pulled some of it out over there, pulled some that way as well, and then pulled some out this way. So basically when we have our next load delivered, which we're probably going to get another load of stone this summer, I'll have them dump it like in the center here where it's low, and so then when I work on things, this whole area will be filled in. I may put more stone over in this area, so like another car could come up here and it could actually put 2 cars side by side. So you know, this will be extended out as well. So I think that's what we're going to do there. I put a lot of stone in the driveway here. I put another load over here. This was 2 different loads here. That's 2 different loads there. Working on more stuff out here as well. So we just keep banging it out and keep working at it. So then also today, one of the other things that we were working on today was the stone around the garden. So we had this here, and what I did was this came all the way out. So I pulled a lot of that stone out and used it for farther down so that I can hit this whole area here with a lawnmower, okay? And so the stone now, we've been working on it, and we've been actually picking up stone over in that area over there because I do want to cut this whole area down. This whole area I want to get cut down. But I wanted to get this stone moved first, and so that's kind of been the priority, is working on the stone. I'll finish up the stone tomorrow, and then tomorrow I will start cutting the grass. And cutting everything back, and then actually if you look at the other grass, that also needs to be cut again because it's growing that fast. So anyway, so we got the stone going here, and we were working it around here today and got it to that point there, and you can see all the stone here. So we will just continue to work our way around the garden and do that all the way around, and then we'll probably make it a little bit wider with stone after that. We're pulling all that stone, like I said, from out over in this area over here and getting all that picked up so I don't hit it with the lawnmower. You see, the garden is actually doing fantastic. It's got to be watered again, so it's real dry again. We've had a couple dry days in a row now, but we get out here every night and we water it, and the potatoes here in the center are doing fantastic. Everything's actually doing very, very well. So real pleased with the garden, and we're just gonna, we'll keep watering it every day. I use about of the big jugs of water, I'll put like 6 of them. We'll use 6 of them when we water the garden. Okay, so now, so today, and this is bizarre, guys. I want to talk about this real quick because this kind of freaking tripped me out. Now I want to show you the sky. Let me show you the sky real quick. Clear blue, sunny sky today. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay. Not a cloud in the freaking sky. It's absolutely beautiful, right? So yesterday, with a partly overcast day, we pulled in 6.2 kilowatt hours yesterday, which is a new record for us for this year. I think I had a 7 point something last year that I pulled in, but we pulled in 6.2 so far, yesterday on an overcast day. Today, clear blue sunny skies, we've pulled in 5.3 kilowatt hours so far. It's about 5:30 right now. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. I have no idea, but I know what we got to do, and I'll talk about that in a minute so that you guys, I know what the game plan is, because of course, being a Gemini, it's an air sign, so I think, and my rising sign and my moon sign are also air signs. So for me, what means is I think, and then think some more. So everything's always going to, plans are going to change. I'm going to decide different things and do different things, and I'll explain what we're going to do in a second. But somebody had asked me, they said, what's the minimum kilowatt hours that you need a day to keep everything running? Okay, so basically the minimum amount of power that I need in a day is about 3 kilowatt hours. Anything above and beyond that is just a bonus, so it works out really, really well. So that's what that's, you know, on a daily basis. As long as I pull in 3, I'm extremely happy. Anything above that is just fantastic. So obviously yesterday was a fantastic day. Today's been a fantastic day. So, you know, and like I said, so what's going to happen now? I've talked about the solar rack that I was going to put in that's going to hold 20 panels, and it's going to be up there. All right, now the cost of that, I kind of weighed the cost of this, and I decided that what I'm actually going to do instead, because of course plans change, I'm going to put up 3 different racks. Okay, now these are all coming off the ground. This is going to come out as well, because I'm not going to have them that way, because this was a complete pain in the butt to clean this over the winter when it snowed and stuff like that. So what I want to do is the lowest part of the panels would be if I put my arm, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. If I have my arm and I put it up like this, that's where I want the lowest panel to be. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make 3 different racks for right now. And I want to have them adjustable, so I can have them this way, I can have them that way, depending on the time of the year. So I'll have 6 panels in each rack. So this way, if there's an issue with like rack number 1, if there's some kind of break in a line or whatever, the other ones are still going to be producing power. Okay, so it's going to be up in the air, it's going to be adjustable like this, and I kind of want to see if I can do it, and we're going to check it all out. But I want to have it so that if I have the panels here, that I can manually rotate the panels. So like this time of day, when the sun is over here, that I can basically turn these panels so it's going to catch that late afternoon sun. Okay, now this tree here that you see, okay, the woodpeckers have attacked this tree on the back side, and it's lower, and it's actually a compromised tree. But also, as you can see right there where it is, it's killing and it's blocking a lot of our sunshine. So that tree is going to come down. Okay, so that tree is going to come down just to, not just for the sunshine, but because the base of it is compromised and there's an issue, you know, with that. So that we don't want to have to deal with that. Okay, oh, there's a nice breeze kicking right now. Beautiful, beautiful day today, about 78 degrees today. So great day for working. Got a lot done. I'm real happy. Like I said, it's always making forward progress. So getting something done, even if it's just a little something, is a good thing. But like I said, I moved a lot of stone and got a lot of stone moved out, which is what I really wanted to focus on. And so I'm real happy to get that squared away more so. And there's just a very little bit left. Once that's left, then I get banging on the grass. And I'm going to cut all the grass that I've already cut first. Then I'll probably go in the front and work on there. And I'll save this nightmare in here for last, because that's going to be a lot of work to cut all that. But that's okay. We will get that squared away. I want to get it cut down so it cuts down on the mosquitoes and everything else as well. So that's what's happening today, guys, at the homestead. Like I said, we're always making forward progress. Things are getting better, and that's what we're working on. But I think I'm going to go with that game plan as far as the solar panels, because I think that I can do that a lot cheaper, build it that way a lot cheaper. And this way, if I do that, and I can utilize some of this old lumber, you know, from that I used on these here, that can be, you know, recycled, if you will, into the new design. And so we'll see what I can use out of those type of things. But I think that's what we're going to plan on doing, because I want to be able to catch as much sun, especially up here in New York. You got to try to capture as much as you can possibly can. So if I can put all 3 of these on some kind of a pivot so that I can turn them, and also adjustable up and down, that's what we're going to do. Okay, it frees up other money. Instead of putting like all this money into one project, it'll free up other money to work on a few other things which really do need to be taken care of as well. But we're just going to keep banging away at it. So anyway, guys, listen, remember, hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every day You know, tomorrow is not guaranteed. I want to give another shout out real quick to Amy. She was just showing today on Facebook. She made some strawberry jelly by picking wild strawberries, so that was very, very cool. So great job, Amy. I like seeing that type of stuff. I got to get her down here and help me can in the fall. I got to talk her into coming and visiting. So, but anyway, things are going great, guys. Making progress, which is really, really important. Remember, STD. It's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. Whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever you're trying to do, you can do it. And the only one that's going to stop you from getting there is yourself. Nobody else can do that, okay? Hang in there. Have a great weekend. And I will talk to you guys all tomorrow. All right? Have a great day. Prepper Nurse 1, out for now.
Alrighty, let's see here. Oops. High Impact Vlogs had one that I want to go ahead and go with. I know we're way out of order tonight, but it is what it is. He's got one titled, "This Guy Deceived Millions Already. See if he deceives you."
I'm uploading this video again. The first upload was censored by YouTube with their slick new speech halting technique called locked as private. This is where they can claim that users violated certain YouTube guidelines. In this case, they claim that I attach misleading tags in my description and tagline, which is a lie. And they keep their claims vague so they can squirm out of any legal pitfalls. So I'm re-uploading this with no tags and nothing in the description except the links to the original videos so you can see them for yourself. We'll see what kind of excuse they can come up with to take this one down. Apparently, the content in this kind of video, calling into question this white privileged black victimhood narrative, hit a very sensitive nerve. The people who run the show over at Google and the higher ups in the halls of government want us individuals who are white to feel ashamed, and they want you individuals who are black to feel victimized. This keeps us all at each other's throats and keeps us from uniting against our common foe. It's very important for them that we remain divided and ignorant. A divided and ignorant people are a weak people. And a weak, divided, and ignorant people are very easy to control. Here's the video in its entirety. Share it, mirror it, copy it, do whatever you have to do to make it as viral as the video that's out there right now, adding to our weakness, our ignorance, and our disunity.
Emotion is good. But if you abandon reason and logic and allow yourself to be swayed by emotion, you'll be about as successful as a swarm of mosquitoes trying to attack a flock of penguins in Antarctica under the water. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with everybody you know.
There's a hyper-viral video on Facebook that's deceiving a lot of people out there with a barrage of white privileged black victimhood garbage. People keep sending me this video asking me to comment on it, so here goes. The original video is called Take 2 Steps from Adam Donya's YouTube channel. It was uploaded on September 29th to his channel, and as of the making of this video has about 8,700 views. And the comments are disabled, which is a really good way to shield this video from public criticism. Now, this same video was picked up and re-uploaded by a Facebook page called VT on October 30th. And as of the recording of this video, it's been up for only 4 days and has received over 35 million views. It has over 240,000 likes and has been shared over 730,000 times with more than 25,000 comments. That's pretty stellar for any video. So it obviously struck a nerve that a lot of people are responding positively to and are sharing on a massive scale. VT added subtitles to the video and included a headline which reads, "If someone doesn't understand privilege, show them this video." The implication, of course, is that this video will inform people who watch it what privilege really is. Now, I've never heard of VT, but a cursory glance reveals that it has a global audience of over 19 million people. So not only are they not small time, they have a uniquely popular ability to influence a lot of people. Some might even call that popularity privilege. I don't know. And it's obvious from the views, likes, and shares that it's having a huge impact. I'll play snippets of the video so we can dissect it with logic and reason in a minute, but first, a quick summary. Apparently, this guy named Adam Donya's got a group of young college-age kids together in a field, had them line up like they're gonna race, held up a $100 Federal Reserve note, and before the race even began, had them take 2 steps forward if each of the 8 statements he gave them applied to them, leaving other kids standing at the starting line if the statements did not apply to them. Obviously, the more steps you take toward the finish line before the race begins, the greater your chance of being the one to win the race and grab the Ben Franklin fiat note of debt. If you want to see the videos for yourself in their entirety, I'll leave the links in the description. From the outset, I want to say that if the creator of this video aspires to be a casino owner, he stands a good chance of being very successful at it, because with this production, he couldn't have stacked the deck of personal bias any more in his favor. The only problem with this video is that from start to finish, it's filled with emotionally manipulative, one-sided, virtue signaling, false narrative promoting BS. So let's examine it. Here's the first statement.
Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married.
There's no doubt that strong families hold a society together, and strong, vibrant marriages hold families together. A healthy family unit is the building block of the very fabric of society. This cannot be overstated. But there are so many variables in a marriage and family dynamic that are unique to each family and to each individual within that family. For example, what if your mom and dad did nothing but fight all the time? What if they stayed married but were abusive to you as a child? What if those parents who stayed married lived a lifestyle that actually caused you to be less safe and less privileged than the guy that came from a broken single-parent home? What if that mom and dad were never home because they worked all the time, you never saw them, and they left you to your own devices day in and day out? Or what if your parents ran a meth lab or did things that placed you in constant danger of not only being hurt, but also in danger of being placed in a state-sponsored foster home where you'd be more likely to be abused or even killed? The kids in the field that fit these scenarios would be seen by this myopic statement as privileged. This is a logical fallacy.
Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home.
What if you had a father figure in the home who was molesting you or beat you up every other day in his drunken stupor? Doesn't matter. You had a father figure. Take 2 steps forward. You are privileged.
Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education.
What area are these people in? Where did he pull this sampling of kids? I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, there wasn't this large percentage of any kids where I lived that had access to private education. I don't care what color you were.
Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up.
Free tutor? What tutor is out there working for free? It really seems like he's reaching here and going out of his way to make stuff up just to put privilege points on the board.
Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off.
Ah, life's necessity. You just gotta have that cell phone. When I was growing up, they didn't even have cell phones. Besides, if the data is correct and these cell phones end up giving you brain cancer, who would be counted as the privileged one then?
Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills.
Now, I get the spirit of this statement. The implication and assumption is, if the kid is helping with the bills, the parents are too poor. But what about the kids whose parents are teaching their grown child personal responsibilities and the realities of life? That things aren't free, and in order to live, you have to work and use the money that you earned to help out. And actually, think about it. This guy's further implying that if the kid had the steadfast character to help his mom and dad pay the bills, he's somehow disadvantaged. It could easily be argued that this determination to take the responsibility to help mom and dad put him at a greater advantage than those who are born with a silver spoon in their mouths, who have no idea what personal responsibility and facing life's challenges is all about.
Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability. You don't have to pay for college.
What the hell kind of statement is that? With this statement, he went out of his way to make this unfair. What if it was because of your athletic ability that you didn't have to pay for college? Can't say that though, because that would blow the entire biased narrative he's trying to promote. Let me ask you, if one person was born with a mother and father and a cell phone, but no athletic ability, and another person was born with only a mother, no cell phone, and an amazing athletic ability that would eventually earn him scholarships and multi-million-dollar contracts, which one was more privileged? His statement right here alone exposes this as total BS. And here's his last statement.
take 2 steps forward if you never wondered where your next meal was going to come from.
After the take 2 steps forward statements, he says this.
I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look. Every statement I've made has nothing to do with anything any of you have done. Has nothing to do with decisions you've made. Everything I have said has nothing to do with what you've done. We all know these people up here have a better opportunity to win this $100.
Now keep in mind what he's saying here, because the thread line that weaves its way through the entire narrative is that winning at life equals having the opportunity and being in a position to make money.
Does that mean these people back here can't race? No. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity.
He keeps saying we. Who is we? We would be foolish not to realize that we've been given more opportunity. We who? Is he attempting to speak for people other than himself?
We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start.
There's that we again. In case you haven't noticed by now, his mindset is that of a collectivist, where one man illegitimately takes on the mantle of and speaks for a whole group of people who didn't ask him to speak on their behalf.
But the reality is we have.
There's we again.
There's no excuse. They still got to run their race.
They got to run their race? They who? This guy has done a great job so far of segregating people, not uniting them. It's the whole us versus them trick. We versus they.
You still got to run your race. But whoever wins this $100...
There it is again. Winning the race of life for this guy, the way he's conveying it in this video, is about the opportunities people have or don't have to earn money in life, which he equates as winning or losing a race.
I think it'd be extremely foolish of you not to utilize that and learn more about somebody else's story.
So, Adam's judgment of you is that if you don't use the money you've earned to learn something about someone else's story, you are foolish.
Because the reality is, if this was a fair race and everybody was back on that line, I guarantee you some of these black dudes would smoke all of you.
What in the hell did he just do? He made this whole thing about race, and he did it in hypocrisy. Because if these black dudes, as he calls them, had the ability to smoke all of you, then by his own argumentation, that automatically makes the race unfair. But he calls such a race a fair race. In other words, he could have easily reversed things and said from the very beginning, take 2 steps forward if you have the ability to run a 4.3 40. Or take 2 steps forward if you could dunk a basketball at age 13. How about this one? Take 2 steps forward if you're deadly with a 3-point shot. Or take 2 steps forward if you're likely to win a free scholarship to a top university because of your athletic ability, instead of having to have your working class moms and dads work their asses off to send you to college. Why didn't he say, take 2 steps forward if you in any way benefited from government subsidies while all these privileged folks had mom and dads who footed the bill for your welfare? But of course, that would shatter the disingenuous narrative. So in his mind, and the way he states it in his video, if some of these black dudes, as he says, has an ability no one else had, this would be a fair race. Even though he just tried to make the case that these, well, let's just say it, white folks have opportunities that give unfair advantages over black folks. Can you even get more racist and biased? Besides, as a side note, one of the guys that never took 2 steps forward is white. Where's his white privilege? We probably can't talk about that. Interesting how he excluded the white guy as someone who might smoke the other white people in a race.
And it's only because you have this big of a head start that you're possibly going to win this race called life.
What exactly does winning this race called life mean for Adam Donius? How is he defining winning? Because all I see at this point is a dude dangling a $100 bill in front of a group of teenagers that don't have the ability to question this guy's racist, divisive, victim card promoting, white shaming agenda and equating winning with making money. And if that's the case, criminals who make a lot of money are absolutely winning in the race called life, according to Adam.
That is a picture of life, ladies and gentlemen.
This is not a picture of life, ladies and gentlemen. This is the perspective of a collectivist racist who cares more about the color of people's skin than the content of their character. A guy who's more interested in promoting a false narrative than proclaiming the truth. A guy who proves by his video that he's more interested in shaming one group of people while he's busy making victims of others. Where are all the kids in wheelchairs? The blind kids, the kids without limbs, or the cancer victims who are struggling to live? Where are all the NBA basketball players who own 5 mansions, have a collection of 25 luxury vehicles, and an obscene amount of gold hanging around their necks? Where are his statistics that the top 20 earning athletes, since he wants to boil this down to making money, are mostly black and Hispanic? He's trying to make people who are privileged from his perspective feel bad, and make the people who weren't as privileged, again from his skewed perspective, feel like they should have been more privileged. This just breeds a generation of people who are discontent and bitter about their current circumstances, rather than taking personal, individual responsibility for their own lives and making the best of what they have right now. Then in the video, they race. After the race is won, he says,
If you didn't learn anything from this activity, you're a fool.
I definitely learned something from this activity. I learned that you can deceive a lot of people with absolute falsehoods as long as you season it with enough emotional appeal and mind-numbing manipulation. The video ends with the scripture verse from 1 John 3:17 through 18, which says, If anyone has this world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does the love of God abide in him? Little children, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth. And there's the coup de grace. The video starts talking about money, it's filled with a race toward riches, and he ends it talking about wealth using a scripture that talks about having this world's goods. So Adam's winning the race of life is most certainly about accumulating wealth. So much for content of character. To buy this video hook, line, and sinker, you have to turn your mind off, let go of logic and reason, let emotion carry you away, and let someone else do your thinking for you. If these kids are disadvantaged to no fault of their own, what's the message? White kids should fall back and make life fair for everybody else? This is just more socialism and collectivism. It's just more victimhood training to teach kids not to take responsibility for their own lives, and that nothing is ever their fault so they can claim victimhood and get free stuff. Because hey, the white kids are privileged. I leave you with an appropriate segment from the X Factor, which featured a young man named Emmanuel. He and his brother were born in the middle of a war zone in Iraq. Both of them had body parts blown off and were found by nuns as they sat in a shoebox. This woman right here, a single mother, brought them to Australia for surgery, fell in love with them, and eventually adopted them. I didn't see anyone like Emmanuel in Adam's white privilege video. Did you? I wonder why that is. In my estimation, I don't think this white shaming / black victimization video could have been any more one-sided, racist, or shallow. What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts for the world and the Google Thought Police in the comments section below. Guys, don't forget to take a second to go to the highimpactflix.com website and subscribe if you want to see more of my content. One way or another, we're going to fight censorship. Hopefully, the people at YouTube will get their heads out of their asses long enough to realize that thinking people on their platform aren't going to tolerate their tyrannical tactics for much longer. But I wouldn't hold my breath. Guys, if you like what we're doing here on this demonetized, censored channel, and you want to support the effort, the Patreon, PayPal, and Bitcoin links are below. If you want to support the channel by grabbing a shirt or two, check out the new in-your-face designs like Black Rifles Matter, Escape from California, Taxation is Legalized Theft, and Sheepvolution. I'm adding new designs every week, and I do take design requests, so check back often. Thank you guys for subscribing, watching, sharing, and especially for all your kick-ass, thoughtful comments. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored, demonetized video.
Take a ride on the wild side.
Alrighty, one more seemingly out of order video and then we'll get caught up with the rest of the stuff we normally do at the top of the show. So I'm going to go ahead and throw up the Daily Woo right now, making me and Jen a couple of burgers real quick. So they're almost done. It's titled Inside the Ohio State Reformatory, Historic Mansfield Prison Tour. Figured that might be pretty cool.
Today's adventure brings us to the Ohio State Reformatory. It first opened its doors in 1896 and in 1983 was placed on the National Registry of Historical Places here in Mansfield. We're going in. Welcome everyone, Adam the Woo here. Now I have been here back in 2013. Back in 2013 I documented segments of the property for my Shawshank Redemption filming location, but today I want to dive in deeper to the nooks and crannies of the premises. Join me, shall you? Next to the West Administrative Wing, check out the floor. I really like the design of the tiles. And if you peek out the window, you can see the side angle of the building and an old metal gate standing there in the newly paved road. Those were used in the film Air Force One. In fact, that whole courtyard can be seen in one of the shots from the movie. This toy train was made by an inmate in the 1950s, and they also have a plate and a clock tower that were made here by the prison inmates. Here in the annex, this door is from the electrocution chamber, and they have the electrical chair there, as well as a mask that they would place over the face. This hood was placed on the condemned person just prior to electrocution in that chair, as well as the telephone that makes the call, giving the order, and the box with all the gears and the knobs to make it operate. Just like in Green Mile, you would place this sponge upon the head right there.
Didn't cool you down very much, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, my sister's here with me as well. Some serious heavy-duty locks there, as well as a straitjacket and some handcuffs. I like the creaky wooden floors in here. Give quite a bit of cool ambiance. Check out the ceiling. This foyer is very beautiful. Speaking of stained glass, look on the right, there's like 3 huge chunks of stained glass leading up that staircase. Some items on loan, including this, which you would hold in front of you during your mug shot, and then you'd put this on, and this is what you wore your days in the prison. If you wanted to get tattooed, you had to use this item made out of a toothbrush handle, duct tape, bell wire, and the tip of a ballpoint pen. And most likely, the item on top would be confiscated. You cannot have a weapon of like that in here. For just a nickel, you could purchase this little coupon, which was good for a haircut. That's the top part of the device, and you would sit in this chair or one like it and get your hair cut. The last time I was here a few years ago, none of these items were here. They were restoring the whole building, so pretty cool to see it current day. These old school eating utensils and trays. Salt and pepper shakers are huge. And this bag of tobacco has an unusual name, nicknamed bug dust. I guess that's what they referred to chewing tobacco as, bug dust.
The daughter got married in the residence. A lot of times they lived here, and the boys were even taught to drive by an inmate.
So the warden's son was taught to drive by a prisoner.
Yeah.
There are some areas that we're not allowed in. They are roped off. You can peek around the corner and just see a little bit of the abandoned areas. But most of the spots you are allowed.
Just like the warden would have wanted it.
Side of the walls and the ceiling through this corridor is deteriorating. Most of the bottom floors have been renovated. But once you leave that area, everything else is pretty much how it was. Under this archway is a bathroom, no longer operational. You see the rusted out sink. There's a flower here designated for Helen. A tub, very dirty bathing area, and a commode. And the pink paint is starting to shine through the outer coating of white paint. It's peeling off. Whoa, is that a bunny rabbit? Hidden pink bunny. This door has an opening here where you could slide medication, and it's clamped on with a little hook there. And on the opposite side, there's an area that the nurse or the guard could just speak through there to talk to whoever was on the opposite side. Some serious history shining through here. Look at this old wallpaper. Wow, it's like a bunch of different layers and different colors from decades and decades of just different layers that they've placed on the walls. The warden's bathroom and living quarters, even some furniture, or parts of the furniture and chairs. Quite a big area that he resided in. Went all the way into this room as well. Fireplace down here to stay warm. From the other angle, looking back into the living area. Notice the roof there is starting to cave in. There's some wire mesh holding it together. But it has definitely seen better days. Closet area with drawers and places to hang your clothes. You know, it's interesting because we all have homes, we all live, in our houses. But imagine living in a prison. This is where you reside. This is what you call home. Slightly different than what most of us are used to.
Oh, I wonder if this one works getting water.
No, don't touch that. Don't touch. You would that would flood the whole place.
It's a big freaking deal, man.
Looks to be a little stage in that corner. You can see some of the items that they are using currently just to repair and clean the place up. This little cubby hole is kind of interesting. It's only a couple feet across, not very wide. Look at the tile down here. This leads into one of the spires. The tower is right up there. That's pretty cool. It's like a little hidden compartment. There's a wasp there. Be careful, don't want to get stung. The fireplace mantle has been removed. I love this. This old light. If these walls could talk, or better yet, if this light could talk, it could definitely tell some stories. A box of memories. A box of memories here. Oh, some old Life World Library books. One of the slogans was Ohio's University of Another Chance. This is where the inmates did their schooling and learning, in this room here. However, if you were a troublemaker, they made you learn in solitary. So this is the solitary room for learning. That's just what I think it is. I don't think that's really what it was.
As the story goes, if you placed a big wooden chair in the middle of the room and leave the room, it will move.
What?
Notice the X on the floor just before you enter this area. The building is so symmetrical that the X is always visible as long as there is light coming in the windows of the 4 rooms adjoining the hallway.
Oh yeah, there it is. It's pretty wild. They say X marks the spot, But I don't think there's any treasure under there. Just a really cool ambiance here in this little hallway though. Now gonna head further upward to the main chapel. At one point, there were 2 levels. You can see this staircase that is now blocked off led up to a balcony. 1,900 inmates could pile in here. Look along the wall. You can see where the balcony once was. This room is huge. Wow. If you were being sacrilegious, you get thrown up in there, and one on the bottom level. And there was a escape attempt which happened in this very room, designated with this historical marker. They tried chiseling out the wall right there. This was covered. There were some workers that would hide behind the cover, and over time, one of the guards thought, what are they up to? They removed the cover, and they noticed that hole, trying to get outdoors. Reading a little more, it was a cabinet, and all 3 of the inmates afterwards were taken to the hole, and more time was added to their sentence. After that, no one was left alone in the chapel. And here's the pulpit, which would be the view from the preacher's perspective. A very impressive room, to say the least. The mural on the wall above the stage really adds to it.
I want to be in here. Out of this place.
I don't have the key.
Oh, she's in jail. Oh, wait.
She's in. Do you guys have the key?
Hey, no.
You don't have the key?
No.
Oh, she got. Never mind. She's out.
She's escaping.
You're free. Shall I call the? I'm gonna call the guards. This is the largest cell block in the world. 2-sided. This is one side. 6 tiers tall, and you can see how far down it goes. Here's the second. Ooh, the lights just went off. The second side. You can get a pretty good perspective down through here past this mesh. Inside this room, there is this mechanism here. Take a look at this. I think this is what opens the doors to the cells. The guard places his hand here, turn that, or this way, vice versa, and the doors to all the cells on this level would open up. I know, but there's really nothing we can do about it.
What are you doing?
You can't live with regret. In here, time, when you're doing thinking, can draw out like a blade. James Lockhart was serving up to 15 years, and on February 6th, 1960, he took his own life by setting himself on fire with matches and lighter fluid in this very cell. Here's a photo from back in the day, interior view of the hospital then and the hospital now. Don't want to get any closer and do not want to shoot any footage out the window that direction, because there is an active prison and there are prisoners in the yard. So I'm not going to show out there because it's asking me not to, but I did want to show the sign and let you know that on site is still currently an active prison behind this one. However, this is a photo opportunity. And I can see why, because from this angle, it's pretty incredible. Imagine climbing that winding staircase to get to the top. It just goes around and around and around. You can get dizzy. I don't know if I would get tired first or nauseous. From the bottom floor, you can see the second level does not have the walkway protection. It did, but they have removed it from that point on. And the top 4 levels, they all have the outer gate. And of course the bottom doesn't need it because no one's going to fall off, but not allowed to walk up on that second level. When you showered, you did not do it in the privacy of your own little area. You showered with everyone else, which is perfectly fine, unless Boggs is in the room. Just keep an eye out for Boggs. Tucked away down here are the solitary confinement cells. And while there is a toilet and a bed, I'm not seeing a sink of any type. When that door closes, it's nothing but darkness, except for that one little window. Here's an aerial view from 1964. The building I'm in at the moment is this structure. Everything up here has been bulldozed and the new active prison is back there. But all this still exists. And as most places, you exit through the gift shop. I am surprised, however, to see that they are selling laser discs. This is not a DVD or a Blu-ray. This is a laser disc. Huh. I do like this series of books. They are very informative, this Image of America series. And for the person who has everything, the gift that keeps on giving, the Ohio State Reformatory bulb for your tree. It's a Christmas ornament. That's going to do it for today. If you're new here, please subscribe now. By doing so, helps keep you in the loop and up to date on future uploads and adventures I will be going on this channel. In the description box, I will be putting 2 different links. One to these and other t-shirts available on the Adam the Woo Spreadshirt, and a link to the Shawshank Redemption filming location, a much more detailed element of all the different locations inside the reformatory and all around Mansfield, Ohio that I did back in 2013. I'll see you in the next video. The vlog is over. They've escaped. Escaped. Good job, guys. Good job. Hitchcock would be proud.
Alrighty, up next is Full Spectrum Survival with his news in 2 minutes. This morning it was titled Natural Medicine, Parenting in War, Uranium in India, and Vitamin D.
This is Full Spectrum Survival's News in 2 Minutes. New data from the University of Michigan reminds us of the importance of keeping mothers and fathers to newborn and toddler children available to these children during a time of social disorder and potential collapse, with findings that our community has suspected, if not outright known, for years. According to the research, newborns who spend their first few days of life in the hospital, not always with their mothers, sleep worse, wake up more often, and are not as receptive to treatment and care, a finding that will mirror itself to children born during times of stress, during a regional or a prolonged disaster. The following is from the research paper. We know that when a baby is first born, they respond preferentially to their mother's voice, and their mother's native language, presumably because that's what they're exposed to in the womb. That's why we wanted to explore how this familiar sound could potentially influence a baby's sleep quality. The study enrolled 50 children who were born after at least 33 weeks of gestation, who were medically stable, and who lacked any congenital conditions, increasing risks of sleep trouble. For 6 hours, a recording of their mother reading books played continuously. The baby's sleep was monitored during the recordings, and for another 6 hours without. The findings remind us that during a crisis, the family bond, in particular the bond between a mother and her children, must be upheld, as countless documents, over the ages of disasters that our world has experienced, shows us the danger and risk associated with anything but. In other news, widespread uranium contamination from both human and natural sources is being warned about by officials in India after authorities found dangerously high levels in 35 districts that were tested. Researchers are continuing to look for livable planets outside of our own, as scientists around the world warn that mankind must change from a resource-shedding lifestyle into one of cohesion and codependency upon the planet if we wish to survive or even waylay coming natural and biological threats. And to wrap things up, even as pro-pharmaceutical researchers claim natural medicine has no health benefits, scientists continue to show over and over again the extreme health benefits of natural non-chemical pharmaceutical medicine, with this data from the University of Eastern Finland and Oxford academic showing beyond a shadow of a doubt that higher levels of vitamin D are directly linked and causative to lower levels of cholesterol, reminding us to find natural alternatives to chemical medicine now, before these options become unavailable. And that wraps up this episode of the News in 2 Minutes.
This week's News in 2 Minutes is brought to you in part by Soul-Arc.com, offering EMP, CME, and lightning-protected solar kits to our community. With multiple kilowatt power options protected from radiation and exposure, you will be able to retain personal infrastructure when others cannot. And ProTripTips.com, from a member of our active community with the understanding that you are your own first and last line of defense. Pro Trip Tips offers a course that will turn you into a harder target while on the road.
Alrighty, up next is Suspicious Observers with his morning report titled Galactic Field, Volcano Update, and Hurricane.
Good morning, folks. 304 angstroms of our star here in ionized helium. We've got volcano updates today, a hurricane off the coast of Mexico, news from the solar system and out into deep space. Let's begin at spaceweathernews.com. We're finding the last 24 hours on our star, no eruptive behavior. Entering center disk on the north, we see bright fields, and south of that, a very small dark coronal hole. Let's begin with the north. There have been no solar flares. In fact, we've actually hit a new cycle low for X-ray flux to where the lower and higher angstrom curves are crossing. When we use the surface magnetism, we can determine that there are indeed no umbra. It's not a real sunspot group, and indeed the entire Earth-facing half of the sun is without sunspots. Up next, we come to 211 angstroms and find sparse coronal plasma around and leading ahead of the small coronal hole. I do hope you can still pick out the dark patch from before and how that's the real coronal hole. Flickering areas ahead are not. So the big frustration yesterday, after posting about a volcanic eruption and 10,000-foot plume of ash and smoke, the public USGS map had it listed as an earthquake. After spending a good deal of time on Twitter and the phone with USGS, the gas trapped by rock idea flew out the window, and this morning it is indeed listed as a volcanic eruption. Top of the list there. I'd also like to mention that the first of the two 5.5s has been retroactively downgraded to 5.4 as well, so the fifth brought the largest eruption so far. Another one is expected today. Going a few thousand miles east of that to where a hurricane is formed off the coast of Mexico. Luckily, this one is heading west and not coming north at land. There is a system, though, behind it you're going to see on Windy at the end today, and our null school run is a look at this storm's rotational dynamics from the ground up to the jet stream. Up next, we launch to Mars. This video accompanies the astrobiology story everyone was talking about yesterday, detection of organic compounds in the Gale crater, which used to hold a lake filled by tributaries from the rim. From methane to much more complex compounds, they've now done everything except find cells on Mars. Up next, we're going to Jupiter, where lightning was discovered to be on the same energy level as Earth, but flipped in its home. Unlike Earth, Jupiter has no lightning near the equator and tons at the poles. They explain this as solar heating of the equator, creating stability, whereas it is lacking at the poles. But I might remind you that the poles are where Jupiter's magnetosphere emanates, and charged particles have both aerosol and ionization pathways to grease lightning. New exoplanet system, kind of a double. One of the binaries has 2 planets, double Earth size. The other has 3 planets, all just about Earth size, but all orbiting the star in just a few days. Last story today looks at the Milky Way and finds a coherent pattern to the intergalactic nuclear disk in the neutral streams and outflows from the inner spiral. That coherence allows them to know there is one magnetic field affecting the entire intergalactic region. It is commonly believed that galactic magnetism comes from nova and is chaotic and not from the galaxy itself. which we generally tend to believe is incorrect per this coherence and other evidence. Dr. Robitaille, Dunning, Claridge, Bagashov, and our 2 genius solar physicists from last year are coming back, confirmed Burkpile and Upton. Pre-registration ends in less than 2 weeks. We have got your wind maps and shots of our star to close. Greatly appreciate your support, and we'll do this all again tomorrow, right here. But right now, it's 4:40 a.m. in the new Valley of the Sun. Eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everyone.
Alrighty, up next is JSnip4, and he's not talking about cryptos. I can't guarantee he won't sing them. He's got a video titled Sweden Issues Doom Alert Brochure to All Citizens.
Now this is some old school JSnip4 doom and gloom shiz right here. Someone sent me a message here on email. Realist News Contact. The Swedish government sent this brochure to all houses. In my 30 plus years in Sweden, never got such info before. And last year, talking with my colleague, why Germany did it and what do they know that we don't know. Here's the link to the English version. So I went and checked it out. Here's the site, which I'll link to it for you. The brochure, If Crisis or War Comes, is now or available to download. So, I mean, this is fairly new. See all those videos I used to do? Seeing this stuff coming? I'll raise my hand and admit it. I have before. Man, I thought things would be here a lot quicker. We got all this debt in the world. How are they going to deal with it? We've got in our country, this is America, not Sweden. We're going to get to Sweden in a second. Social Security. All these handouts. Oh, that one's going to go bankrupt in 2026. That one will be gone in 2028. How's that going to be dealt with? No one wants to think about that. Our buddies up north in Canada, 100 and something % debt to income ratio, average households. In America, again, $400, $500 bill for something, you'd be hard pressed to pay it. The average person. Why? Because they don't have the money. Got to get a loan. Got to put on a credit card. You know, I'm over here today. My garage door has a problem opening. The one that I use on the right. I'm like, oh, okay. So I help it up. I look, and the thing's busted out of the wall where the wood is. And I guess the spring unwound a bit, caught the electrical wiring that was up there in the midst of it. So I called out a garage door company. They come over, move it over to the board next to it, remount everything. I end up cutting the electrical wire nutting it back together because it took a little damage. But it wasn't hot anyways because of the it was a light switch for the lights outside the garage. So anyway, so I'm doing that. You know, speaking of money is what I'm telling you. And I call $30 to give you an estimate, and you know, if you end up doing it, we don't charge $30. We'll just do, you know, knock it off the job. Okay. Well, I never get a quote. He just starts working on it right away. And I'm looking at it. I mean, you don't have to replace anything. This garage, the things are brand new from, well, when they redid this house 2 years ago. You know, and no, the guy really didn't live here for a few months, so like they're brand new. But the board that was mounted to the wall had a split in it, and that thing came off. So that's what happened. For me, oh, you're just remounting stuff. Labor only, right? It's gonna be $759. I said, whoa. Wait a minute. $759. You were out here like maybe not even 2 hours. That's like $350, $60, whatever, $70 an hour. He's like, well, you know, we have to retension it and we have to do this. I just select, yeah, like a little iPad, you know. I was like, well, all right, but respring and rerun the tensioner thing, or the cables on the wheels. If you had to do that, if you had to do either of those things, wouldn't you have to kind of do it together anyways? It's, you know, in other words, hey, you need a brake job, but but I got to take your rotors off anyways. You know, if someone wants their rotors turned, you're almost paying for a full brake drop. You might as well just get the brake pads, you know. So I'm like, don't you have to do that anyways for what you just did today? He's like, well, yeah. I'm like, I'm just going to tell you, there's no way I'm paying $700 and something for someone being here. Service call, labor only. He's like, well, all right, let me, long story short, he just, you know, this $399 or no, it's $314 or $312, whatever it was. I'll pay that. But even that's $150 an hour. But it's a company, you know, I understand. I'm okay with that. It's like, oh, you move into a nice house. Everybody that has come here to date that I needed anything for has tried to rape me. I'm just going to tell you that. Has tried to rape me. Oh, this guy lives in a big, nice, beautiful house. He must be loaded. I don't think so. You can think what you want to think, but that doesn't mean you get to charge me a whole bunch more than somebody else. So I usually will keep shopping, okay? But it's something like this. I didn't even get a quote. It was just like after the fact. You said you were going to give me a quote first, and you never gave me a quote. I'll pay $300. A couple hours. So point of that is, imagine the average person just got a $314 bill. I can't get my car in and out. I got to get it done. I don't have any money. Why don't you have any money? Because I'm an average person. Why are you an average person? Your mind will say, well, because I'm an average person. No. You used to be, or should have been, part of a large middle class, which has been slowly but surely eroding away, getting smaller and smaller. And now the middle class is getting closer to the poor side, while the rich side is getting smaller and smaller over there. Soon there's not going to be a middle class. They'll just be poor and wealthy, and that's it. So what is Sweden? What's the deal with Sweden? Well, you know, Sweden, taking in those immigrants, we're going to help some people. And I love the stories. I mean, I don't really, but I love hearing these stories because I get to say, you freaking idiot, what is wrong with you, you moron? A woman decided to take in a couple of refugees, and they raped her. Another story. Another household lady, and they raped her kids. Well, is Germany letting in refugees too, and all these other countries? Yes, they are. Why, yes, they are. Remember all those stories from Germany, girls out late at night, and I mean, bands of 50 to 100 immigrants just hauling them off and raping them. I mean, so aside from that, how do these people produce money for the economy? How do they contribute? They don't. They have no skills. They're just there to basically feed me, bathe me, and give me a place to stay. That's what the story is right now. How do I know? Because I'm watching other people on YouTube covering it live. Not just speculating, actually live covering this stuff. And I do read the occasional news too, which actually covers it sometimes. So we have that problem with this massive debt they can't deal with. So let's just bring a whole bunch of people over here that we can't pay for and just add that to the taxpayer, you know. And in all this equals a very, very bad ending. The question is when. And when it does happen, what's it going to look like? And I've got a better question for those over in Europe. What's it going to look like when you have all these migrants who've been living like that for a long time? When you, with your middle class lifestyle, you won't be living like them. You will refuse to live like them. But they won't. And when things get bad and the money stops for those people, and all the free handouts stop for them, and you too, well, they're going to know exactly how to go get it. Just like they did back at home. They're prepared. That is one skill they have. They know exactly how to go get what they need. And in many of those EU countries, no guns allowed. I wish you lots of luck protecting yourselves. So here's the document. Emergency preparedness, false information in the event of a terror attack, home preparedness tips, total defense, Sweden's defenses, attacks against Sweden, heightened state of alert, and the warning systems. I am very curious about Sweden's defenses on page 8. Be honest with you. Total defense. The term total defense denotes all activities that are needed in order to prepare Sweden for war. Civil defense, military defense. Where's the part about invading immigrants that have now turned on the population? But the main point of this, just like this, what would you do if your everyday life was turned upside down? Why would it be turned upside down? I'm a Sweden. I pay my bills. I pay my taxes. I let the refugees in because my government says it's a good idea and we should care for these people even if they rape our women. Why should we have any kind of reason to have our everyday life turned upside down? CJ Snip 4 for further information. An emergency can result in society not functioning in the way we are used to. Oh, you mean like the good life, the debt-based life, buy anything I want, put it on credit, refugees come over, we'll pay for that too, tax the hell out of me, no problem, don't worry about it. Property bills going up, property prices going up, rent's going up, everything's going up but your paycheck. And you're going to have to bail some of those refugees out, unbeknownst to you. That kind of thing. So here's another one. Climate change. Really? Climate change may mean that flooding and forest fires become more common. Incidents in the rest of the world may result in shortages of certain foodstuffs. Disruptions in important IT systems may have an impact on the electricity supply. In just a short time, your everyday life can be problematic. The heat stops working. It becomes difficult to prepare and store food. The shops may run out of food and other goods. There is no water coming from the taps or the toilet. It is not possible to fill up your car. Payment cards and cash machines do not work. Mobile networks and the internet do not work. Public transport and other means of transportation are at a standstill. It becomes difficult to obtain medicine and medical equipment. Your municipality is responsible for ensuring that services including care of the elderly, the water supply, the fire and rescue service, and schools continue to function, even in the event of a societal emergency. As a private individual, you also have a responsibility. Preparing correctly can enable you to cope with a difficult situation, regardless of what has caused it. So, you guys remember that NASA video? Some guy from NASA put out a company, like not an alert, but like a little info broadcast. And it talked about this kind of stuff, being prepared, and we want our NASA family to be... We never heard anything like that in our lives. That was a few years ago. Now Sweden's got a PDF to download. And not only that, this guy tells me they're going to, I guess, mail it to every household. Everybody is getting a copy of this. Why all of a sudden? What are they expecting? Nothing? Because if nothing was expected, you wouldn't have to send this out, now would you? Which is why we conspiracy theorists will be well prepared for these days, should they come. And I'll be able to look back and say, hey, I was doing my role for how many years on YouTube? A long time. I'm still a prepper to some extent, right? I got the things that I need to go for quite a while. And I got that stuff years ago. I haven't had to add anything to my supply. Even got my freaking solar panel sitting in the garage now. Why? Because if I'm moving out of this freaking house, according to my mom, I don't want to install that stuff here, only to leave, you know, give it away basically to the next owner. No, I'll put it up at the next house. But it's very interesting that over there on that side of the pond, Sweden, refugee, you know, haven, is all of a sudden putting this out there. Interesting, huh? Take care.
Alrighty. So I guess there was a very little bit about what was going on in Sweden, but oh well. It is what it is. Let's see here. Let's see. Rogue Preparedness had a quick one here. It's titled Prepper Things to Do While Watching TV /Netflix/Hulu. Or maybe even us.
Instead of just watching TV, you could be watching TV and doing prepper-related things. So roll on off that couch and get started. Idea number 1, make a new kit. Idea number 2, make something out of paracord. Idea number 3, exercise. Idea number 4, inventory your bunch. Bug out bag, inch bag, whatever. Idea number 5, write out your weekly preparedness plans in your Rogue Preparedness Planner. Idea number 6, rotate your food storage. Idea number 7, dry fire practice. There's no excuse that you can't do something related to prepping, even when you're too busy watching TV. I just wanted to show these little examples of things that you can kind of multitask doing while watching TV, which is one of the biggest excuses that I think a lot of us have. Well, I was binge watching Netflix or whatever, and that's okay. We're all human, we all need time to relax, but sometimes there are times when you can multitask and do, you know, a few different things all at once. So those are just some ideas. What are some other ideas that you can do, prepper related things while watching TV? Thanks so much for watching. If you like my videos, please consider supporting me on Patreon. A link down below in the description, and come visit me on my website at roguepreparedness.com. New blog post every single week on Thursday, and come visit me on my Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching. Conquer tomorrow by preparing today. Talk to you later. Bye.
Alrighty, let's see. Florida McKee has one here titled, Can You Spot the Real Freedom Fighter?
Regardless of what is going on with Roseanne Barr, Kim Kardashian, or who Lindsey Vonn is dating, there is another part of the world that calls itself America that also values freedom, that values independence, and also has a history of fighting against powers that would have enslaved it. If you want to hear the history of Simon Bolivar and hear a story about a group of people that fought against incredible odds to get rid of tyranny, I think you would be very impressed to see what these people were able to do against Spain at that time. But today's video is going to talk about cognitive dissonance. We've talked about this on my Patreon channel, but I think what's going on right now in our country is very, very important for people to understand. Our government in Washington, D.C., has labeled most of this area here as being run by imperialists, when clearly the opposite is true. I can even show you this, and I have before in other videos, things that you would never believe would happen. I'm going to go ahead and play this forward and mute the sound just because there's not a whole lot being said. But what you're looking at here is a line of people, old, young, men, women. Now, they're not showing any IDs here. They're not making any pledges to the government here. They're being armed. This is the Venezuelan military handing out military-grade weapons to its population. This was last August, and we covered this in another video. Do you think this is something that you would ever see in the United States? We got Kevlars, we got entrenching tools, we got pistol belts, and of course, rifles. And these people aren't in uniform. These people haven't gone through basic training. They haven't signed contracts to sign away their life. They're just militia. Because this was when our government was talking about invading this little country of 31 million people, because it didn't agree with the leadership style of its government. And I'll ask you this question. Do these people here look like they're starving? Do these people here look like they're not eating? You see, there's problems in every country. We have starvation here. We have people that have the inability to work here and people with mental health issues here. But I didn't see anybody proving that they were mentally fit to have a military-grade weapon in that line, did you? Yet in this country, pardon my computer here for a minute, we have 10 states that have passed these red flag laws that allow just random people to call the police and have them not only commit you, but take your guns away. And another 9 that are considering it. We have a giant group of people, with the government on their side mostly, wanting weapons to be taken out of the hands of the civilian population in this country. Now, what sounds more like living under a dictatorship? Or living in an imperialist state? Does this sound more like the government's definition of the Second Amendment, or what the Founding Fathers would have believed the Second Amendment to be? This is the cognitive dissonance I'm talking about. They talk about how horrible Venezuela is and how we must invade and we must save the people from the impending violence. Yet, day after day after day, in a country, Colombia, that gets $500 million a year, and in some years it's gotten almost $1 billion, daily violence. And I thought this was an interesting story for you guys to look up. This is how our government is able to pass training on to countries that our own laws prohibit us from being directly involved with because of human rights violations. It's I guess, a modern version of Iran-Contra. But you can pull up article after article after article of violence and crime and graft and trafficking out of a country that the president just got a Nobel Peace Prize and is supposedly going to be now a member of NATO, and everything's perfectly fine. But the problem, of course, is this guy. This guy who refused loans from the IMF, who does not want UN intervention in his country. No DEA, no CIA, no US military bases. Leaving the OAS. And I would, if you, honestly, I don't have time to sit and translate this speech for you, but if you go to Telesur and you go there with Chrome, you can get this, at least the title here in English, and listen to this speech. When you listen to this speech, honest to God, you will hear something that you would have never heard out of a leader of this country for many, many, many years. He talks about the independence of Venezuela. He talks about how the Venezuelan people stood up. Not him, not Chavez. The people of Venezuela stood up against the United States and won. He doesn't talk like a dictator. And I mean, my God, the guy doesn't even have a tie on. And neither does most of the people that are sitting there with him, that support him. When you hear, is it more likely that this guy's lying or our government's lying? And as we leave here, I just wanted to let people know about this. Some months ago, I had talked about this group called the Shining Path in Peru. And of course, I was laughed at, saying, oh, they're washed up 80s, old terrorist group with their leaders in jail. And I said, no, that's not the case. Peru's a very dangerous place. Another pro-United States country. And now they have this happening just today. And of course, they won't identify him by name anymore. But they say the agents were attacked around 5 p.m. local time while traveling in a police van on the Chircampa-Anco highway, allegedly by, quote-unquote, subversive drug traffickers. If anybody doesn't know who the Shining Path is, the Shining Path are communist guerrillas that have operated down there since the 80s, and I had made the allegation that the president probably shouldn't travel there for the that meeting a couple months ago in April, the Summit of the Americas. And even though the U.S. military put almost 500 people on the ground there, the president still didn't go. So that'll tell you something about Peru. So when you look at this map and you see these different countries.
Good afternoon.
And you see the ones that our government has singled out for labeling as a problem. You ever heard of a terrorist attack in Venezuela? You ever heard of any of the problems that are happening in Colombia happening in Venezuela? There's an article on Colombia Reports about over here on the Pacific coast of Colombia, how there are these chop houses that even the Colombian military won't even bother to go in to try to stop, where they dismember human beings. You don't hear about that over here. The Venezuelan military doesn't have to patrol the streets of Venezuela like Brazil does. Venezuela doesn't have a terrorist organization, the Shining Path, operating with near impunity for going on 40 years like Peru does. They just wanted to be free of the US dollar, create their own cryptocurrency, not be slaved to having to purchase a foreign government's currency before entering the oil markets. There's a strange parallel with, U.S. people having to frequent a private business in order to travel, meaning that you have to go sign up and get insurance through a private company and enrich a private company in order to even travel in a car. And now, of course, with Obamacare, we now have insurance companies that are making it a crime to not frequent their business. You don't have that down here. You don't have the government telling you that under force of arms you must frequent this private business. They don't have a BATF, an IRS in Venezuela. They don't have Stasi enforcing tax laws in Venezuela. They don't put millions of people behind bars for simply possessing marijuana. I don't smoke marijuana, but I don't think we should be filling up our jails with people that do. If you want to talk about freedom, if you want to talk about the idea of being independent, there is another America called South America, called Latin America, that has a history of fighting off imperialism. And it's here. And it's starting again. And the Maquis is going to keep you apprised of the real story in Venezuela and in Latin America. I want you to look at this. And I want you to look at this. This or this? Who's the real dictator? Like, share, subscribe.
Alrighty. Let's see here. Lots of crazy stuff. Now, one of the things I've been saying for quite some time now is that our storm systems are going to get crazier. And a lot of that's because of the weakening magnetic shield. We're seeing a lot of different stuff going on right now. I suspect increase in volcanoes, earthquakes, and all kinds of good stuff like that are reasons from that. Dabu did a video that I think is another indicator, and it's titled "Aletta Goes from Tropical Storm to Cat 4 in Only 24 Hours." So I bet you're going to see a lot more of that, and I bet they're going to get worse and worse and worse.
This looks to be another classic example of just how quick some of these storm systems can be changed, manipulated, or just within 24 hours explode from a subtropical storm system to a Category 4. This is exactly what just happened with this Category 4 Aletta. They're saying the Eastern Pacific's first major hurricane of 2018. Now, they cite some cyclones that did clip this neck of the woods in terms of the wind speed, but they're saying this one just come to life out of nowhere, that it was poorly calculated, saying that the meteorologists and others that were predicting this were saying that it should top out around 100 miles per hour in terms of the winds. It's already at 140. So this thing was sitting, like I said, at 70 mile an hour winds, a tropical storm, and is now sitting at 140, double that within 24 hours. Now, it's projected to spin up out here off the coast of Mexico, but it's not projected to make any landfall, though they're saying right now, which some find kind of odd. They think that it will clip it in some manner. But if this thing takes a freak turn, I mean, you're not going to have much time to prepare for a Category 4 that they said, oh, it's not coming this way. Well, just yesterday, it was a tropical storm. Within 24 hours, turns into a Category 4. It just goes to show how quickly some of these storm systems can explode. And it raises the questions of manipulation and all types of other stuff. And some of it's not hard to find when you can find the sheets and you can find the open public information that they were cloud seeding or they were doing this or that. We've seen it before. Oddly enough, right before a hurricane, last time, big one hit in the Gulf and it hit Texas pretty hard. They were cloud seeding as it was coming in, which is ridiculous, which added to the fuel. But wanted to make note of this. I will leave a link. I'll continue to update as things change. It's been Dabu7.
Alrighty, quick little video. I wanted to make sure to show that to you though, because of what it is. Anyway, I'm going to go with Ron Paul Liberty Report. He's got a video titled "Socialism Isn't the Answer to Crony Capitalism, the Free Market Is." And I would definitely agree with that.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. With me today as co-host is Chris Rossini. Chris, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Dr. Paul.
Well, very good. Good to have you, because I want to talk a little bit today about crony capitalism and socialism. You know, it's surprising how often the word socialism is thrown around these days. Bernie Sanders seems to have called it back into vogue. I thought everybody gave up on it. I thought the 20th century destroyed the whole idea of socialism, the total failure of the socialist state when the Soviet system came down. And in reality, it really has been. Socialism has been totally destroyed as far as being, you know, a functional system. And when you look at what's happening in Venezuela and Zimbabwe with runaway inflation and the many other problems, you'd think, well, maybe they would give up. But then others look at it and say, hey, you know, America's not doing too badly. The economy's picking up, and we just need better managers. And when we do have problems, and they'll admit, well, the inequity of the system and the problems that are out there, then they'll say, oh, it's the free market is at fault. And of course, what I want to talk about today, Chris, is the fact that when they use these words, they're too careless, and everybody knows the distortion of words is a very serious problem, so we'll try and clarify that, at least in our minds, about socialism. But when they say that we need socialism, that's the theme of Bernie Sanders, because of the failure of the free market, we sort of have to cringe. At least I do. I cringe on what is he doing, because we don't have a free market, and yet that's preached all along the way. It's the free market that's failing, and that's why there's the shortcomings, and that's why people are suffering, and why there's people still sleeping on the streets. So what we need is socialism. And then it becomes even more annoying when you hear the young people gathering on the college campuses and shouting about socialism. I think that's some propaganda and a distortion. So I don't think that's as serious a problem as it seems to, but at least it gets on the news, and the bad guys are always using it, that we have to do something because of the total failure of the free market system, and we have to stop that, and the only answer is socialism. I'm sure you have seen those kind of and listened to some of those conversations, and I think the Austrian economic philosophy has some answers to that dilemma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's after the last century where over 100 or 200 million people died at the hands of their own socialist governments, to think that this idea is worthy of even talking about anymore is astonishing. But it's important to know, and that's what most people, they don't know what socialism is. They just walk around with slogans. But socialism, pure socialism, means the abolishment of private property. The state is the sole owner of property. And they failed because when there's only one owner of property, there are no market transactions. You can't have trade. And without trade, you can't have market prices. Without market prices, you can't have profits and losses. And without profits and losses, you have no idea what to produce, in what quantity, where to produce it. They're totally in the dark. And that has been tried, that has been done, and they totally failed because they did not know what to do. There was no market, and there was no way to gauge what should be produced and how or where to do it.
Right. You know, and they do so much rationalization. You know, they say the communists always say the withering away of the state, and we're going to have this utopia, and the common man is going to be in charge. And they rationalize to the point where, well, a little bit of force here and there is necessary, you know, in order to bring this about. And they justify this, and these millions and millions of people who've died over this, because they endorse the principle of use of force, which is exactly opposite of what is accomplished in a free society. That means people have freedom of choice, and they have responsibility, and they are rewarded for their efforts, in contrast to assuming that a few smart people get in government, and they're given this authority to use force and dictate and plan, and therefore then you have to say, well, you have to give up a little bit of freedom. And we've heard that a lot, especially after 9/11. I was told, well, Ron, you have to give up a little bit of your freedom. You have to give more power to the government to be safe. In economics, it's the same thing. You have to give up a little bit of your freedom because the poor people have to be taken care of. But you pointed out very well in your statement that the results are so lousy. You know, poor people get poorer, and there's more starvation, and the more socialism, the worse it is. But socialism, there are definitely degrees on it, because total socialism or you know, a system like the Soviets, they own everything, they dictate everything, they make every single decision. It's a total disaster. But there's a phenomenon where there's a transition. We have interventionism, and we have examples of a great deal of power in certain sections. Some people would say, well, Obama gave us socialized medicine. That, to me, is not exactly true, because it's a corporate medicine is what we have. It's intervention, and there's a lot of corporations that influence, you know, the practice of medicine. So it isn't socialized, even though there's a lot of mischief. They cause shortages and all when they come in and do price fixing. But I had one experience of really seeing firsthand what happens when you destroy the pricing structure. In my lifetime, and I remember it clearly because there was rationing. World War II, there was wage and price control and rationing in the midst of war, which people tolerated more, but the markets really didn't work. There was a lot of shortages and because of rationing. But not too long after that, we had rationing during the Korean War. But during the 70s, when after the Bretton Woods broke down and we were having inflation up to 14-15% and interest rates high, they had to do something. And that, when Nixon closed the gold window, what he also did was institutionalize wage and price control. And what I remember so clearly about that, you know, they knew the prices would get fixed. I was practicing medicine at the time, and my office call was $5, and I was getting ready and wanted to go up to $7.50, you know, because everything was going up in price. But everything was frozen. Matter of fact, the prices in medicine were frozen longer than some other things. But the one thing that I noticed is that I was involved in doing some building and things at that time. There was a shortage the next day, because there was a freezing of it. There could be no more passing the cost through or paying a little bit more to get the products you want, and the shortages just popped up immediately. And then there was the signs of a black market. If you paid a little extra, you could get something. But I was amazed that how important the pricing structure was. But if the businessman was going to break even and not make a living or lose money, he's not going to do it. He had to quit doing it, and that's why the shortages occurred. So, but socialism, of course, is total socialism, is total control. Nobody should be tempted to do this. But, Chris, I think this has all been fed, which I've said so many times, through an educational system. Government education, cradle to grave. The terrible examples of economic education in our universities. The influence now of cultural Marxism, and all, which is the social part of it. But today, it's also the attention that Sanders got as saying, I'm a socialist, and this is what I'll do. And students rally around that to some degree, but I don't think they have the vaguest idea, because they don't even hear our side of the story. But I think the biggest issue that challenges us, Chris, is the fact that they get away with arguing, well, capitalism is failing, the free market doesn't work, there's still a lot of problems, there's too much special interest, the rich are getting richer, and there's still people out on the street, and therefore we need socialism. That, I think, is where the fallacy is, because they're not talking about and criticizing free markets. I think that's our job, is try to change that attitude.
Yes, education is where it all begins, and hopefully we help on the education part with our shows and our articles and everything. But how did we get today to this corporate state that we have? And it actually started with a man named Benito Mussolini. He was a socialist, But obviously socialism, pure socialism, is a total failure. So he's like, okay, we're not going to abolish private property and market prices. We'll have these things, but we'll have them in name only, meaning government's going to run the show, and it's going to run it with its corporate partners. And there would be all these cooperatives, he called them, but basically it's like what we have today with our million agencies that are all staffed with corporate people. So it's a marriage of corporations and government, and that's how we get crony capitalism. And that's the history of how we got to this failed moment that we're at right now.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect explanation about that, and it's based on the principle of authoritarianism. We have authoritarianism in economic planning and what we have today, and the monetary system that we have. But Mises warns about this. You know, where corporations and government come together and they become partners. And I have heard that so much over the years. We have to be partners with the government. But Mises predicted that that will lead to socialism. And it didn't mean that it would lead to the Soviet type of socialism. He was more thinking that it would lead to a fascism where, and you mentioned, a pretense, you know, that you have ownership. I tell people, I don't think we own our property even now. We rent the property. If we don't pay our taxes, we don't have any property. And if we want to use the property, we have to get permission from the state. So we aren't true ownerships of our property. We're not true ownerships of what we earn. But it's a pretty good facade. It's a fake, and people seem to buy in it. Well, we do have freedom, you know. But unfortunately, what happens for this, it makes the social condition much worse, because the rich are able to get the influence with the government. And if you have one step away from, you know, the Mussolini type of vicious socialism, you have the big corporations doing quite well. So whether it's the social media networks that work with government, and whether it's the military-industrial complex, so it opens the door for people to say, well, I have to make a big investment in government. I have to have influence. I have to have my lobbyists and this sort of thing, which further, you know, gives the spread of the benefits. The rich do gain more that way, because the poor, they don't get to lobby. They get thrown crumbs, and we pretend that, oh, we have a good system. And that's why a lot of times it's either by a major error in thinking, or they're total hypocrites from the left. They'll say, well, we'll take care of the poor and we're going to feed them. But when you look at it, if you look at Hillary's campaign, I mean, she was hardly a bleeding heart liberal when you saw behind the scenes what was going on and what she was doing, and how where did she collect all this money, you know, for her foundation. I think it's a typical example of what happened. But I think both parties have endorsed this type of system. So the real challenge is to try to convince people that we can have greater prosperity, and it's a much better system to get the government out of the way, and hopefully we can have a little influence in nudging our country in that direction.
Yes, and as socialists walk around with just platitudes and no intellectual base remaining, either intellectually or practically, we have history. We, the free market crowd, we have an intellectual foundation. We have Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard. They did all the work for us, but their ideas have to reach the common person, the average person, and it's available to the people that are watching the show. If you go to Mises.org, MISES.org, you can read all of their works, their books, their articles, all for free. And once you read them and understand them, it's your job, just like ours, to speak, because that's the only way the ideas go from one person to the next.
Right, and you know, I think that the opposition to what we're talking about are able to grab the moral high ground. They have always, you know, said we're for the underprivileged, the underdog, and we want to help, and we want to redistribute the wealth, and they're the bleeding hearts, and they grab the moral high ground. And then they turn it around and they say, if you and I are going out and start a business, that we said, you know what? We have 5 investors, we have this little business, and our job is to have a successful business. Our job is to give a good product. Our job is to make profits. Our job is to expand. And we may even decide to keep the profits. And people say, oh, no, that's not charitable. You have to give them away and do all these sorts of things. But you know, in a free and prosperous society, I really believe in the American system that people in America are very generous even under today's condition. But even if you had somebody working that was, you know, vulnerable to the charge, well, he's selfish. He wants to keep what he earns. But you know, to me, it's sort of like working and providing for yourself is sort of like the necessity of breathing oxygen to live. Working and providing for yourself is very noble indeed. And even if you don't become charitable in the conventional sense, you're still doing a tremendous service to you, yourself, and your family, and also to the other people that we're not going to be stealing from through the government activity. But I don't think that really is a concern. But we shouldn't be harping on the fact, well, capitalism is selfishness, and they want to keep what they earn. And this is the wonderful thing about liberty. Liberty can be used in the social sense for whatever people do. They can do wonderful things, and they can have their religion, or they can be atheists or whatever. In economics, it's the same way. If you're honest with your production, which you have to be in a free market and protect property rights and live up to contracts, that if you make profits, you're not obligated to do anything. That you're also, if you do it under these circumstances, you're still providing a tremendous service to society because you're being productive, you're producing jobs, and there's no necessity to. But I just don't think it's necessary. But if people know that, and they shouldn't feel guilty about making profits, I think the people who should feel guilty, and that annoy me, that are making profits because they are partners with the government, and you know, they're getting contracts, they're in the military-industrial complex, and they're getting all that. That's where the guilt should be. So there's a total difference between free market success and crony capitalism, and therefore socialism can hardly be the answer. One thing is, Chris, I think we've moved away from that in spite of this peak or a little uplift and a little attention given to socialism. But I don't think it's going to go too far. And if you care to make, Chris, a closing statement, I think we'll close our show for today.
Yes, I have more of a warning because our Mussolini-style crony capitalism has failed. However, what will replace it is still up for grabs, and the people who are for liberty, we have a fighting chance. But we're up against socialists who go under different names. They won't use the name socialism. There's people who want a technological tyranny over us, where forget about your freedom, you're just a glob of data that they're going to manipulate. And there's also a religious environmental aspect to it, to where your life is micromanaged by the powers that shouldn't be for the planet. And then finally, the political correctness. This is also socialism, that where your mind is micromanaged, what you can say, what you can do, what you can think. So we have a lot of forces against us, but like I said, we have a fighting chance.
Right, and I think that's a good summary, and I think of it in terms of choice, whether it's social, religious, or sexual, anything. In a free society, you have choices. And what are the rules? No rules? What do you mean? The government has to tell us what we can do or can't do. No. We have basic fundamental moral rules that should be enforceable, and that is that you have property and you have a right to your property, and nobody has a right to take it. The government doesn't have the right to take it from you and steal it from you. Other people can. You can't lie, cheat, steal, or kill. That's about it. Something that's been around for thousands of years. Basic fundamental rules. And then when you have that, the individual makes choices. Does it solve all the problems? No, but it solves one big one. And that is the incentive for bad people to get into government and control the government so that they can control the people and mold what they think will be their idea of a utopia. Even if it's well intended, it can still be very evil. But the main thing is to protect choice, whether it's choice in your religious or non-religious beliefs, and what you want to do with your life, and where you want to work, what you want to do, and all your incentives, and be able to take care of yourself. And this to me is something that we should protect. For years now, we've heard about pro-choice, pro-choice. But I tell you what, the real pro-choice is your life, your life and your liberty to be able to lead that life as long as you don't hurt other people and that you don't exert aggression of other people and you respect other people's property. Believe me, that is what free choice is about, and it will be less than perfect, but I'll tell you what, adhering to that principle will allow us at least a chance at moving in the direction of a society that has barely existed throughout all history, and there's no reason why we should give up on it. We should never turn our back on moving toward liberty and saying, well, maybe we better rethink this socialism stuff. Maybe we can just have better managers. That will not work. So, of course, our vote is for freedom and liberty and private property ownership based on a moral principle of non-aggression. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.
Alrighty, We Are Change has one titled The Very Bad Things That Happen When You Cover Bilderberg.
This is Rick Radowski of WeAreChange.org here at Day 2 at the Bilderberg Conference in Turin, Italy. And today has definitely been interesting to say the least. As you know, I am a fully independent journalist that is only out here because of you and your donations. I only seen one mainstream media organization from Russia here, and other than that, there's almost a complete silence about this very important, elusive, secretive meeting where about 130 of very influential people in all realms of life, including politics, media, academia, business, titans in different spheres of influence, all meet in secret here with, of course, insane security. Covering this event has not been easy, as we have been stopped multiple times, had our IDs checked, and just now, just a few minutes ago, we were taken to the side, picked out, selected by the Italian police, and interrogated for over 30 minutes with them asking us questions about everything in our life: where we're staying, where we live, what do we do, the hotel we're staying in, the videos we took, the photos we took, our objective here, and on and on and on for about 30 minutes. Of course, surrounding us with plainclothes police officers, different battalions and ranks of police officers, police trucks coming in and surrounding us, ultimately trying to intimidate us and harass us from covering this event, with this being the third stop that we had to deal with. And we told them, what's wrong? Like, we're clearly here to be journalists, to investigate what's happening. And then the officer broke and said, we know everything about you. We know where you stay. We know what you go, what you have for breakfast. And we are here to specifically watch you. And that's exactly what they've been doing. Not only stopping us from doing our important work here on the ground, but also, most importantly, intimidating us, trying to scare us, telling us, yeah, we could put you in jail for whatever we want, as the officer just told me a few minutes ago. And it's not just that message that the Bilderberg security forces and the police that they hired here are willing to send. They're also willing to send a more dangerous one, like, hey, we'll put a gun to your head and kill you if you keep doing this. And this is no exaggeration, especially from the story that you're about to hear from my friend Josh, who just dealt with that very particular incident a few hours ago. Josh, what happened to you?
It was actually yesterday morning, not today. So early in the morning on Thursday, the first day of the conference, right before the conference started, it was about 4 a.m. and I was in my studio apartment. It's about 5 minutes away from the site, and excuse me, I'm lying in bed. It's dark and I hear all this excuse me, noise coming up through the stairwell. And at first I'm thinking maybe this is someone with a late check-in, maybe some drunks are around here, and then I hear a lot of noise, and then suddenly there's a boom and my door bursts open and about 5 officers stormed right into the apartment. It's just a one-room studio. They flicked on the light switch, and at least one was pointing a gun directly at me as I was lying in bed. and it was utter commotion for a handful of seconds. They start asking me to tell me my name, and I'm asking them, what is going on? Please explain. What is this about? What's happening? I tell them my name, and then a little later they start demanding that I show them a document or passport. One looks down and notices that on the table was my US passport sitting right there. Still about 5 officers surround me as I'm kind of lying, kind of sitting on the bed. One of them shows me a little photo. They say that they're looking for a suspect, and they say that their information was that the suspect was in my room. And ultimately, after 5 or 10 minutes, they decide that they're gonna go. They briefly apologize and they leave. And then I quickly, not knowing whether I was being targeted or whether they were indeed looking for this suspect and it was a mistake, I quickly upload a video to YouTube at 4 a.m. saying this is what happened. Police just stormed into my room. They bursted through the door, destroyed the lock, there were wood chips flying. They put up a gun pointed directly at me from several feet away. And then so just after I upload that video, I get a couple more knocks on the door. Actually knocks this time, not just bursting right in. And 2 of the officers were back, and again, they actually apologized a little bit, but the second time they started asking me some questions, asking me who I am, why I'm here. I said that I'm a journalist here to cover the Bilderberg conference, and I do know that in the past there's been some harassment of journalists covering Bilderberg, and I asked them, is this related? They said no, and I believe one of them had a smirk on his face when he was saying that there was no connection or saying something else during that interaction. And when they came back, they actually came back with my landlord, which I didn't realize till the very end of the interaction. So my landlord spoke with the police, and then later in the day I got an interesting text from the landlord. Actually, before the police left, they said, okay, it was a mistake and we caught the suspect. He was at some other place somewhere around there. And then later in the day I got a message from the landlord saying that the police were actually searching for a terrorist and that they caught the terrorist in a nearby home.
Yeah, this is the thing. When we were just detained a couple minutes ago, the police officers were like, terrorist, terrorist, speaking Italian, terrorist, terrorist, and like looking at us, they're like, you can't use your phone because you may, this is what, another strange thing that they just said to me, you can't use your phone right now because you may use it to detonate a device. And I'm like, what? They're all speaking very broken English, but terrorist was one of the words that they were specifically using here. Again, some people say, well, this was maybe accidental what happened to you, but we have to understand here, this is along the MO of what has Bilderberg been doing for a long time. Even 2 years ago, we were specifically had our room raided by the German police in Dresden, Germany during their Bilderberg meeting, and had a police officer come up to me and say, we will beat the crap out of you, we will arrest you, we will do whatever we want, you have to leave this city now. And then of course I gathered a whole bunch of independent journalists and walked back, and we had a whole little protest march, and then of course they decided not to do anything. But at the same time, this is also interesting, we're hearing another story right now that there was another raid at the same time of another independent journalist like yourself that happened as well. So any words on that, and any final words on what's been happening to you?
Yeah, I can't corroborate the second story, but I did speak with another journalist who's here, who's friends with this person who supposedly had his house or apartment broken into at about the same time and was detained by police for quite some time. And before I heard that story yesterday, I'd been speaking to lots of people, including some journalists who have been targeted by Bilderberg or police outside of Bilderberg in the past. And I was getting kind of a split reaction. Some people saying this is targeting, some people saying, well, this might just be a case of a strange mistake and coincidence. But when we heard this second story, which unfortunately we still haven't corroborated, but when we heard the second story, suddenly a lot more people were telling me, okay, this really has the signs of being intentional, the signs of being harassment. And Actually, I was in Dresden too, and I wasn't there when you had your place broken into, but I spoke with you about that, and I watched you and other journalists be harassed constantly by the German police, and that was the last Bilderberg to take place in Europe. So it's kind of fresh in my mind, and when something like this happens to me, I cannot say definitively one way or the other whether this was a mistake or whether this is intentional harassment. But it is in the back of my mind that there's a long history of police and security targeting and harassing journalists who are attempting to cover Bilderberg.
Well, not just harassing, we also have a story on our YouTube channel of other people who were there just specifically to cover the Bilderberg group meeting. Specifically one in Dresden, they were very heavy-handed. They're very heavy-handed here. We'll see how this scene develops as well, but it's not looking good for us, to say the least. But in Dresden, there was another case of another random guy who was there, another kind of, independent journalist who was literally dragged out by the police, beat up and kicked out of town and arrested for absolutely no reason. We were arrested for absolutely no reason in Copenhagen during the Bilderberg meeting, where police officers came to us, said, "That's it, turn off your video cameras." We were like, "No." Then they forcibly attacked us, removed the video cameras, turned them off, and then said, "Yeah, you guys have drugs on you," without even searching us, without even finding out anything about us. They were like, "Yeah, you're just going to jail for drugs." Luckily, I was able to send out a message. There was a bunch of phone calls from you guys. There was a lot of attention put on the case, and then they released me without any notice or without any explanation at all, and just let me go free. So again, what's important here is to continue to speak out. So definitely share this video. Josh, the links to your independent YouTube channel and your independent media organization, of course, will be in the description below, but we can't not be intimidated by these people. We have to keep speaking out. We have to raise attention on this, and the more attention we get on this, the more safer we are, which is critically important for everyone to understand, because again, they're sending a message. Don't report on this. Get away from here. It's not easy to report on this. One of the main reasons why I think a lot of journalists don't cover this, because it's extremely difficult, and you have to deal with the adversities of all these security forces, high-level security forces, just up your buttocks, watching every single one of your moves and intimidating the crap out of you. But we're not intimidated. We're here. Cliche. We are change, and we're going to continue to do this job for you. Any last words, Josh?
Yeah, it's a bit of a sad reality that what happens often at these conferences is there's a circus on the outside of the conference, and then the focus of the news ends up being what's happening outside, and it's in a sense shifting the focus from these important geopolitical discussions that are taking place inside. Yep. But we're gonna, I'm sure you are, but we all are gonna try to do our best to actually get an understanding of what really is going on inside the NH Lingotto Hotel this weekend in Turin, Italy.
Which we do almost every single year. So again, thank you guys so much for giving me this opportunity to be here. Josh's links will be in the description. Definitely check him out. I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching, donating, sharing, and being here with us.
Hi, Dabu7's got a couple here, or well, got one in particular. The AMTV's got one. Dabu's got one titled "Massive Explosion Rocks Trans-Canada Pipeline in West Virginia."
This is Dabu7. An update to this Trans-Canada pipeline situation. All too often, we see the protesters come out en masse like they did up in the Dakotas to protest these pipelines that are going in. The mainstream media will put the focus on the protesters as if they're bad people. Trying to protect their water, trying to survive. They'll make them seem like they are just the most horrible people, and they'll show the police cracking down on them and trying to justify all of that, going along with the whole beast system. That's how it works. Very rarely do they come around and talk about these types of incidents here where the pipelines explode. It's crickets. You're hard-pressed to find any information. It's only the local reports, and many of you probably had no clue that this even happened. So we have a Trans-Canada pipeline exploding in West Virginia. No one wanting to talk about it. Happened just yesterday. You could see this as far away as 20 miles away. Fortunately, there was no injuries, but this was massive. It was very large. There's a video clip people can check out here. I'll leave a link. You can see just how massive this event was. in terms of a pipeline explosion that most people heard nothing about. Going to talk about this more. Underground World News Live, Dabu 7/7, 9 p.m. Eastern. Make sure to join us. I'll leave links below. Peace.
Right, up next is one from AMTV titled Breaking: Major Chinese Military Operation Against U.S. Underway.
Hey everybody, I'm Chad Booksam with Alternative Media Television. Something really interesting is happening, but first I want to start and remind everybody, just a few days ago, General James Mattis, he stated to China that if they bring weapons permanently to the man-made military islands in the South China Sea, there's going to be serious consequences. We've seen already China weaponizing the South China Sea. Now, also, we have this Singapore summit coming up. Now, we're seeing something very interesting, and I want to connect it for you, going on in the U.S. military. First, we've heard that B-1 bombers have been grounded. The Army has grounded this huge fleet, they said, for safety concerns. Also, what we're hearing, and the Washington Post just reported this, that Chinese government hackers have compromised the computers of a Navy contractor, stealing massive amounts of highly sensitive data related to undersea warfare, including secret plans to develop a supersonic anti-ship missile for use on U.S. submarines by 2020. So, you have these bombers that the Army has grounded, the entire fleet. You have China, and reports coming out again from the Washington Post and other outlets, that they have gained information on highly classified secret warfare by the Navy. You also have at this time, at a very tense time in the South China Sea, where basically we're on the brink of war with them, because what are we trying to do? The U.S. military is trying to gain access to these islands, and China is going to permanently weaponize the South China Sea. Also, the Singapore summit is going on, and just as Christopher Green reported not too long ago, there is no way that China will ever allow North Korea to be a puppet government of the United States. They're right on the border. They need them as a proxy always. That's why you're going to have Chinese military planes escorting, Chinese fighter jets escorting Kim Jong-un to Singapore, okay? They're going to be escorting him. And there's also reports that the hotel in Singapore might have been bugged, okay, by Chinese intelligence officials. So connect everything that is happening. Connect everything that is happening. The fleet has been shut down. All of this information, they've gained access to huge, classified, important wartime info in the middle of a very, very dangerous situation in the South China Sea, and I have a feeling that it is all connected. Anyway, leave your thoughts and opinions. Let me know how you feel. Again, my name is Chad. This is AMTV, hard hitting and in your face. God bless.
Alrighty, got one more I'm going to sneak in here before we call it a night and a week. Another one from Dabu titled China Hacked Navy Contractor and Secured a Trove of Highly Sensitive Submarine Data.
Stories are breaking now in regards to China hacking a Navy contractor, securing a trove of highly sensitive data that is connected to submarine warfare. And they're saying that Chinese government hackers have compromised the computers of a Navy contractor, stealing massive amounts of highly sensitive data that is related to undersea warfare, including secret plans to develop a supersonic anti-ship missile for the use of U.S. submarines by the year of 2020. Now, they're saying that this breach occurred in January and February, meaning they had to have been tagging or targeting this individual for some time. It wasn't just one encounter. Now, of course, they're speaking on conditions of anonymity, discussing this investigation, but the hackers targeted a contractor who works for the Naval Undersea Warfare Center. So the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, which is a military organization headquartered in Newport, Rhode Island, that conducts research and development for submarines and underwater weaponry. Now, they did not identify the contractor, but what they say is this. there was 614 gigabytes of material relating to a closely held project known as Sea Dragon, as well as signals and sensor data, submarine radio room information relating to the cryptographic systems, and the Navy Submarine Development Unit's electronic warfare library. This is a trove of information. Now, they're saying that the Washington Post agreed to withhold certain details about the whole project by the request of the Navy. They're stating that this could harm national security with any more information getting released. That's where this sits in terms of this. So they're saying that some lone individual out there was able to get hacked, and because of it, China has this trove of information now. Going to talk about this more Underground World News live. Join us Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, Dabu 77. Hope to see you guys there.
Alrighty, that is going to do it for us. I'm going to pop off here before I run out of time on Facebook. I appreciate everybody coming. We shall see you next week unless something super crazy pops up. Hope everybody has a good weekend, and as always, God bless you. We love you, and be one with your spirit.